Coming to the regular city council meeting June 12th, please rise for the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call shows everyone's here except Bob Martin.
Approval of the minutes, we have a couple of them, so we'll do them individually. Approval of the minutes from May 22nd, 2017.
I've got a correction on page 4. Probably about a third of the way down. Let's see. I wanted to take this first sentence out. Councilman Kibble stated tax abatement, blah, blah, blah. Just to swap that out with Councilman Kibble responded to Councilman Kurzweil's comments about the abatement given the seamless tubing by explaining the tube mill continued to pay their taxes on property that existed before the abated expansion, and that Kurzweil's comments were misleading. And then further down, a couple of, let's see, the line that starts, Councilman Kibble stated that there was a Facebook traffic, that taxes at the end of that sentence should be omitted. And on the next line, because of the rise in, and it should add home values in that next line. Do you see where I'm at?
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's it. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay,
I'll move them as amended.
I'll support.
all in favor?
Aye.
So we have the minutes for May 17th, 2017.
I have a correction on page 4. It's at the very bottom. It's the first sentence. Councilmember Kurzweil received an email from SEMCOG. The spelling is SEMCOG. It's just a spelling issue. Thank you.
Move the minutes.
As amended.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And the special meeting minutes from May 30th, 2017. Does anyone have anything?
I move the minutes.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Approval of the bills.
Question, John. So I'm a little confused. Sometimes we're getting the attorney invoices and sometimes we're not. Are those going to be on the next council meeting?
Yes. I was out of town.
So are there any, I was looking through that here, is there any approval of invoices on this pay run for Johnson Rosati?
Yes, I believe that.
Okay. I can't approve them without seeing the detailed invoices to know what we're paying, so I'll be a no vote today.
Maggie?
I had a question. It's on the first page, and it is in the middle. It's regarding a new hire background check. Where did we hire a new employee?
We replaced our part-time accounting clerk. That was filled by Joan Sorelli. It is now filled by Patricia. I can't think of her last name right off the top of my head.
Is that still a part-time position?
Yes, that is still a part-time position.
Thank you.
Move the bills that we pay them.
I'll support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
Roll call, please.
Kibble?
Absolutely.
Parisian?
Yes.
Busy?
No.
Gallus?
Yes.
Cadeau?
Yes.
Kramer?
Yep.
Kurtzwa?
Nope.
Approval of the agenda.
I have no additions or deletions.
Move the agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Public comment.
I should just say Carl.
Good evening, it's Carl. 390 Lennox. Hope everybody's enjoying our much warmer weather. I'm glad the air conditioning is on here. Anyway, there's not a whole lot that I have to tell you this particular time. It hasn't been quite as busy past 2 weeks as usual. But I do want to mention something that's a little bit of old news that I didn't recap at an earlier time. Our trailer park, known as South Lyon Woods, okay, they finished up with the improvements and they have added the circular sidewalk around their playground equipment, which they said they were going to do last fall, and it looks beautiful. It looks really good, okay? The sidewalk around the playground equipment. Also, they're demolishing 3 more trailers, and they have had heavy equipment in there, and 3 pads that have deteriorated, that don't have trailers on them, have been removed. And when they put something new down, they're putting down pylons. And they also did a bunch of patchwork at the plaza up front. And Sherry told me she regretted they couldn't do any total repaving in the plaza up front this time around fiscal year, but they hope to be able to do it in the latter part of this year and next year, which has always had a lot of holes there. Anyway, that's newsworthy. Also, we got a new paint job finally on our caboose at the Historic Village. That took some doing, matching the colors of paint, because when they age, they fade, and then when they fade enough, they don't match the other ones. It took us really some work to get it right, and I hope it stays perfectly matched. Anyway, it's quite an effort. Also, I want to make mention of a new driveway that we've got at the DPW entrance at the end of Ada Street. It's on quite a steep incline going in there to the DPW yard, and it looks to be about 11 yards of concrete going in there, and I assume 6 bags mix, 4 to 6 inches thick, and it'll really be a benefit, okay, for the trucks and the equipment going up that incline, okay? And I stopped by. I didn't take a picture of it, though. But I thought it was noteworthy, and I think you ought to know about it, okay? Very much so. I think you'd like to see it. Anyway, John and council, that's all I have for you this evening.
Thanks, Carl.
Thanks, Carl.
Thank you, Carl.
Good evening, Council. My name's Gary Koval. I live over 61350 Heritage Boulevard over in Colonial Acres. The reason I'm addressing you or asking to look into this or help me with this, we have a problem with people speeding through the Colonial Acres. The speed limit is 15, it's posted 15. I've been over to the police station 3 times, spoken to the officers, and been told that there's nothing they can really do as far as enforcing the speed limit. I've had residents going to the meetings at our facility, and they said, well, if we increase the speed limit to 25, they can enforce it. And I been told, no, they will not do that. It's private property. I understand that. I'm looking for an avenue to help, and that's why, because we're on TV, some of these people over there, because they don't have anything to do at night, maybe they're watching this. Hi. Pay attention, would you? Because I've been over to the police station 3 times, and the lady, the receptionist, the secretary, the officer, whatever she is, she's very patient with me. The 3rd time I came over there, she recognized me, goes, she's back again. I've spoken to different officers. I got a couple officers that I've seen. I don't know what to do as far as trying to convince the people that, if they see somebody speeding through there, reckless driving, drunk driving, they patrol it just to kind of look through, but the speed limit's not enforceable, as I've been told numerous times. So, and I spoke to Chief of Police earlier tonight, and I'm addressing you. I don't know, other than it's being broadcast, what else to do.
Well, I guess you got to ask Chief. I mean, it's frustrating, I'm sure, but
In the time we had it about 2 years ago, there was an accident. A lot of people, part of the problem, a lot of people use that as a walking area. And so people go blasting through, the speed limit's 15, they go well over 15. I actually, and I'm not taking credit for this because it's kind of bad, there was a lady that blasted through a stop sign, and I was curious as how fast she was going. I got up to 40 miles an hour as I was going past the pond, and I slowed down, and she was still pulling away from me. And I don't understand. I've had people tell me that, well, these people are coming from the subdivision over off 11 Mile. She says, because they don't want to go through that traffic light. Why would you do that? Because there's 5 stop signs through Colonial Acres. Even if you blast through those, speed limit's 15. You can certainly go down 11 Mile Road, 35, 40 miles an hour, you get a stoplight, and then turn right or left. You're not going to save any time. That whole idea is just that crazy. So, most of it is the people that live there, and they're the ones breaking the law as far as exceeding the speed limit and not stopping at the stop signs. My fear is, and I've seen it, people out walking, and at dusk, they'll be wearing all black, and you won't see them. If somebody gets hit with, I don't know how to. So part of it, we put speed bumps in, that didn't really work. It's another story altogether. And now what we're thinking of doing is putting a walking path line in, but again, there's young people walking through there. A lot of people walk through there, walking their dog and just walking through there. If I could just figure out a way of getting people to slow down and so somebody doesn't get hurt. I mean, that's really the bottom line.
I guess, Chief, could you just explain, our position so it's, so they're aware?
Sure, the gentleman's statements were pretty accurate as far as, number one, it's private property. Those are not public roads. So there's no traffic control order governing either the speed limit signs or the stop signs. So the 15-mile-an-hour speed limit or any speed limit they choose to set in Colonial Acres is unenforceable. What the police can enforce would be drunk driving or impaired driving or reckless driving. And it's very difficult, even though we do patrol in there, and we're in there many times a day with lift assists and various other calls for service. It's very difficult to catch somebody in the act of actual reckless driving. One thing we've done in the past is put the speed monitor on Heritage Boulevard, and I think from the feedback I've gotten, that's been somewhat helpful. But that has a limited lifespan, the deterrent factor there, and then the speeds will creep back up.
Could you use driving without due diligence? Could you enforce that?
No.
No.
Bigger speed bumps.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks. Anyone else? Okay.
They can enter into a contract with us.
Under old business, we could consider adopting the revised 4-year contract with People's Express for public transportation. We have someone here?
You have someone here. This contract has the termination agreement which the council had requested. There's also provided to you the statement on People's Express that you had asked for. And then I will turn it over to the representative. If you have
Hi,
any
Tammy
questions.
Pearson, People's Express, if you have any questions.
It's a 5-year contract, right?
I believe so. It says 4 on here.
Yeah, but
Right,
the
it was a
contract's 5.
five.
Okay.
The agenda's incorrect, it's 5-year.
John?
Joe?
No, I don't have any questions. I think you addressed everything that we had. We went back again, and I'm pleased to see it's a 5-year contract to lock you in. This is a valuable service for our seniors and our community, so thank you. I don't have any questions per se, but I do want to say, make the motion to approve the contract as presented before us tonight.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much, and it'll be a pleasure working with you still.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
New business, consider accepting donations to the city cultural arts commission.
You should have in front of you a copy of the email from Josie that details them out. Maybe a little bit more, although I tried to be as specific as possible. She's already spoke to the council about the laminated artwork from the National Endowment on the Humanities from an anonymous donor. And the second is a $100 gift certificate from Bush's for food and other passable items at the Sustainable Art Show reception. And the Sustainable Art Show is going on currently.
Well, I'll make the motion that we approve the 2 donations as presented.
I'll support.
Beautiful displays outside as well.
All in favor?
Aye.
Beforehand, it's pretty nice.
It is. Things that sometimes you don't think necessarily would be art. It looks good. Absolutely. Is Norm's piece is going to be at?
Yeah.
Okay. It's a nice greeting spot.
Okay, discussion of budgets per Councilman Kutzwil.
Yeah, I thought that the feeling of council was to start putting budgets on the agenda and begin dealing with them at each council meeting and start dealing with budget issues. Me, personally, I have about 4 or 5 issues that I just sort of wanted to highlight, but I just sort of wanted to get it out there and start the process. Whatever process the city does have, it's archaic, it's backward, and it doesn't work. So I think that there needs to be a rebuild of what the city is doing with respect to its budget, how it proceeds with the budgeting process, how we identify budget issues, how we resolve, most importantly, resolve budget issues, and I think we just need to start that process. So I can start with the issues I have, or if somebody else has it, but I think the process needs to start.
No, I agree. Go ahead, Maggie.
I think, first of all, we just need a basic understanding what the budget is a little bit. I'm going to highlight a couple things. I think what prompted me to spend the time that I did in preparing for tonight, whether I get through everything or not, it's not the issue. The fact is that the work's been done, is what happened on May 22nd, and I think we just need a basic understanding. If you're not going to approve the funding for a budget, then don't vote for the budget. And the reason for that is because the city does not have a mechanism to deal with an approved budget, but not the funding for the budget. So that is a huge mistake that was made on May 22nd. I don't care how you vote, because I'm not voting for the budget. I didn't vote for it. didn't vote for the levy the first time, wasn't going to vote for it if I was here on the 30th. What's important is that you understand the relationship between the mill and the budget. And this is pretty basic finance. You don't have to innovate. You don't have to think outside the box. This is about adding, subtracting, and multiplying. This is basic grade school stuff. So I would just like to remind council that we need to look at the budget as an integrated piece of work, and that all mechanisms on it need to work, and that includes the funding for it. That's my first comment. My second comment deals with the, as I called it, the Chicken Little letter from the city attorney about the sky falling if we did not approve everything by a certain date. I found that letter, I think it was a confidential letter. Nothing in it was confidential. It dealt with the charter, which is a public document, dealt with the Uniform Budgeting Act, dealt with a bunch of statutes and whatever. Nothing in there was confidential. The tone of the letter was basically, if you did not approve by a certain date, the city would be in a financial crisis, basically. Well, I hate to remind council and the city attorney, but the city already is in a financial crisis. And dealing with it is what we need to do going forward. What the city attorney did not tell you is that there is a defense to his argument that if you don't pass a budget and a levy, you could be held potentially liable for violation of the charter, which is a misdemeanor. Well, what council didn't tell you is that there are defenses to approving the budget and approving the levy, which is what I chose to do. My defense is clearly the public policy defense. Maybe the city attorney ought to spend a little bit of time looking at causes of action called public policy. I did not see where it was in public policy's best interest to approve a budget that did not deal with contingent liabilities of the city. I think I also spent a sufficient amount of time discussing on the record the issues I had with the budget, all of which were public policy issues. So you want to sit there and tell people if they don't vote for the budget, this is what's going to happen, that's fine. But I'm not going to be intimidated by that tone that was in that letter dated May 24th. I wasn't the problem. You had another council member on here that caused the problem, quite frankly. And that was because you had inconsistent voting with funding and with acceptance of the budget. But under no circumstances will I ever vote for a budget that I believe is against public policy or against the good nature of the taxpayers. So I think that's important for council to understand, is that you don't have to be pushed against the wall to vote for something that you have legitimate arguments or legitimate issues about. You don't have to vote for that budget. As long as you have good public policy arguments to stand on, you're not going to be held liable under anything. The next thing that I think is important to understand is the actual millage issue itself. It wasn't so much that it was the charter deadline that was forcing the vote, or city attorney saying that it was forcing the vote. I think it had to do with Lisa Deaton filling out the 4029. Am I correct, Lisa? When did you have to fill out your 4029?
Well, the time frame is I need to have our millage rates to the county by June 15th. The county then goes through and checks everybody's millage rates, make sure they're all entered correctly, and then we can get our order to the Oakland County Schools to be printed and mailed by the 30th.
Okay, so I think what I have here is a 4029, which I'm aware of. And I did speak with Shannon at Equalization, and she confirmed what Lisa Deaton just told me, is that the deadline is not so much the charter. The city attorney didn't understand that. The issue is, when does the city treasurer need to get her form filled out and delivered to Oakland County? That is the real deadline. And you said it was when? June 15th?
Yes.
Okay. So the artificial deadline in the May 24th letter from the city attorney, to me, evidenced a lack of understanding of the mill process of Form 4029. Additionally, I'd like council to know that this form, 4029, does not include the mill levy for the library or for the school district. The school district has its own 4029 that they are responsible for submitting to Oakland County because they are the levying authority. All South Lyon is responsible for is for the millage that they pass, which goes on the 4029. Am I correct, Lisa?
Yes.
And then what happens is the school district calls you or sends you an email or sends you a copy of their 4029, and then you know what to put on people's bill, tax bill for,
Correct.
okay, all right. So that's how that works. So I think that we need to have an understanding here of what is the process. And the process was not necessarily what was detailed in the Chicken Little letter.
Maggie, I think our city attorney has one comment to make.
Yes.
On yours.
Council should hesitate to accept the argument that the charter language and the deadline for approval of both the budget and the mill levy is somehow something you can disregard. I don't think that there is any informal deadline after that date by which you can comfortably plan your budgeting process. The charter provides a clear deadline for approval of the budget and the mill levy.
Tim, I would disagree in your own words.
Let him finish.
You should endeavor to complete that process by that date, which is a charter requirement.
In your own words, you said there is no applicable state law that sets a date for a city to adopt a budget and tax levy.
But you have a charter
That's
that
what you
is
said.
adopted under the authority provided by the home rule cities that is a requirement for you to follow.
It says
Don't
does require-
decide that you don't want to follow that charter provision.
No,
And
it
I
says,
understand it didn't happen this time, but I don't think that it all excuses the failure to comply.
Well, I disagree, and I'm willing to go out on a limb. I'm willing to say that I didn't comply with the charter because I didn't vote for it, and I'm not going to be forced to vote for something that I have very, very strong public policy arguments to defend my actions. And I think that's just what I'm here to say, is that I'm just not buying into the argument because there's,
Understood.
because as we all know, any provision of that charter can be challenged at any time in court. It's until a court rules on its either constitutionality or enforceability that actually makes it truly what it is. So,
Well,
but that's
Mr.
okay. That's, I'm not here to argue about the opinion. I'm just letting people know that I have a defense to that letter on May 24th. Additionally, what I did was, in the research regarding that 429 form, because I just wanted to make sure that my recollection was correct on the 429, I did a Google search for communities and not passing a tax levy and having a budget, and I came up with an ordinance, actually, and had an opportunity to speak with the Director of Finance out in Durango, Colorado. And they have a very nice ordinance, by the way, on financial procedures. And they have an ordinance that probably would have helped, and I spoke with Julie about this, their finance director, a very interesting community out there in Colorado. And that particular ordinance says, if the city council fails to act in a timely manner to adopt the annual budget, the appropriation ordinance, or to certify the tax levy as required by this charter, the amounts last fixed shall be the amounts for the ensuing year. These amounts will be in effect until city council takes additional action. So when I spoke with her, what Durango did back in the 1980s is they had the foresight to say, there may be a time when we have a budget passed, or we can't agree on a budget, or we can't agree on a tax levy. What do we do? Because you got to remember, Lisa Deaton has to sign this form. And Lisa Deaton is not going to sign this form until she has a resolution or an ordinance to fall back on to give her direction on how to fill out this form. So council right now has only one way to deal with it, and that's through a resolution. But we had a problem. And so this may be a solution to pass an ordinance that gives the city clerk direction that should this happen again, she will know that we don't have to walk around like chickens with our heads cut off, worrying what we're going to do and figure this out, figure that out. She can go to the amount last fixed for the ensuing year. She can go right to an ordinance, and she can fill out her 429 if city council hasn't passed a resolution by June 15th, and there you are. The ordinance sort of, I felt, is something worth taking a look at. So that's just something for council to look at. I think you have a problem, and you need to find a way to solve the problem, because I'm not going to sit here and tell you it isn't going to happen again next year. So I think why not start acting proactively, at least on this issue, and take a look at it.
I have one question.
Yeah.
Lisa, does the form have to be filled out and delivered by the 15th, or is the 15th the deadline on the form, and then it can be delivered after? Or is the 15th
It's
the
the
deadline
15th.
to be delivered?
Well, for us to get the tax bills in the mail by the 30th, the county needs to have them emailed to them by the 15th.
Okay.
What happens is the county takes a look at this form. Equalization takes a look at the form. IT takes a look at the form. And I think there is a provision for the county commissioners. And it's my understanding that your system is shut down for a day, or something is shut down for a day.
We get locked out of the system
That's right.
while they run the mill rates.
Right, that's right. So the City of South Lyon's computer system is shut down for a day while the county is going through and working on this mill. So she needs enough time to get this into the county so that the county can do its thing, send her back an approval, and say, okay, everything you submitted is fine, now you can print your tax bills. So she needs a couple of days to print her tax bills, and then she needs a couple of days for those tax bills to get in the mail before July 1st. So that's kind of where your timetable is coming from, is more from the city clerk. You can sit there and argue the charter all you want, but the real deadline is right here with submitting this, but it is what it is. So one proposal that I am making is that the city look at what Durango has done, and I asked their finance director. She was absolutely fabulous to talk with. You always learn something new when you speak with somebody. And she had insight, and I said to her, if you had to use this provision today, would you know how to work it? Would you know how to use it? She said there's nothing ambiguous here at all. She says very clear why they put it in there. And that was back in the 1980s. And she said they haven't had to use it, but she said it's very clear how this provision works. So, Tim, it's Durango ordinances. It is Article 5, financial procedures, and it was Section 8.
Maggie,
Yeah.
if I could, one of the things we talked about when actually I voted against this millage levy was actually adding language saying that in the event that it does not pass, that the next years would continue on. Would that be an option as well? I mean,
Yeah, I think you have
be
to,
as strong as an ordinance, but per se. Go ahead.
yeah, I think you have to look at how you're going to resolve this next year. I think what you have to do is just assume it's going to happen again. Something may happen. You won't get the votes that you need. You may not even get enough votes to even pass a budget or pass a mill. So then what do? Well, you got to have a mechanism to move the city forward. So I don't know. Yeah. I mean, that's what we're here for.
It would be a motion to approve the same millage as last year. So there appears to be an obligation under your charter and state law to do an annual adoption of a budget and a corresponding mill levy. And if the idea is to continue last year, it's simply a motion to continue the last year.
I didn't vote for last year's millage. So then what do?
There was no millage. I think there's a more affirmative obligation on behalf of all the council members to work through those issues and come up with something that is acceptable to a majority of the council.
See,
It shouldn't be a passive action. It should end up being something where you make a deliberate decision on it, not go by default and let this document end up driving the conversation.
John, see, what I think we have is some fundamental disagreements. I mean, we have This budget should have never been passed. I mean, that's the bottom line. It included an increase which we voted on, and we were putting the papers together that night, and I still don't even know what it was because we've never received a revised budget that we actually voted. It's kind of like the healthcare bill. You got to pass it first and know what you actually passed. So it should have never passed. So we should have went back to the table and went line by line and tried to work within the current millage rate. That never happened. So what you have is a fundamental disagreement. And the thing I take exception with is the sky is falling letter, or the Chicken Little letter that we received on May 24th. A couple lines that stood out. Due to council's failure to do its legal duty, the city is now in a
Rizzi,
yeah
I would advise you
crisis
not to
situation. Yeah,
attorney-client privilege
well, I don't see what's
communications in an open meeting.
I don't see what's confidential about this.
It's
I
not
mean,
your privilege to
It's
weigh.
maybe your opinion.
It's not your privilege
But,
to
As
weigh.
you know-
an individual council member, I wrote a letter that provides legal advice regarding a particular circumstance.
Mm-hmm.
The client is the city. We've been through this issue, unfortunately,
Yeah.
with this council.
well, the issue is that you
I
put
would
attorney-client
advise you-
privilege all the time
While
on
I'm
documents that
not
are
your
not.
individual attorney, I would advise you not to disclose an attorney-client privilege communication in an open meeting.
All right, well, I won't read it line by line, but the gist
I wouldn't
is
read
that
any of it.
I think we
No,
have
I
to
wouldn't reveal
abide.
the substance of it either.
I
It's
think
not just a verbatim
being
recitation
Our city
that's
attorney
at
has
issue.
given us the advice to
Okay.
follow on this circumstance. I think it's probably good advice.
well, I
It
disagree.
doesn't mean it
because
your disagreement's well
Yeah.
noted.
Well, okay, then I'll give some background as to the reason why I want to talk about this, but I guess apparently it's an issue, is that in the past, we've received many communications that are not attorney-client privileged, and then you slap on attorney-client privileged, and all of a sudden, you can't talk about it because it doesn't fit the agenda. But the bottom line is we received this letter where I think we were being strong-armed into being forced to pass a budget that included a tax increase. And that's kind of where the fundamental disagreements are. So what I'm concerned about is that I'm still not sure what we passed. I haven't received a revised budget. I mean, I didn't vote for it, so I didn't pass it, but council did. Lynn, are we going to have those figures updated?
Yes.
I'm just surprised that we don't have them today since we voted on it. Or,
Well, I can kill a few more trees, or you can get it electronically. I was waiting on the resolution to be signed by John today so that it can be included in the full electronic version.
okay, because one of the things I'm still confused about is, I mean, I heard that one of the police cars was not originally in it, but then it was taken out. Was there modifications since we reviewed last to the budget?
Removing the police car, the second of the two that were options, was an option that was provided to the council. Yes.
So is that in the budget that was passed?
I have to look at it because based on the mill levy that you passed, as a council, the mill levy that did not include a police car for the police department. That is the reality. You wanted the lowest level mill levy for the general operating
Right.
fund, and I provided to you a list of items that could be cut if you wanted to continue to lower the mill levy. One of those was the police car. The council voted for the .07 or 050 mill levy, and one of the items excluded in that budget is the police car. The police department have received new vehicles every year for the last 3 years. This would make 4 years in a row. Is that $40,000 going to make that much of a significant difference to a department that has a $2 million budget?
I'm just curious as to what we actually voted on. That's what I'm asking. Is
You voted on the paperwork that was in front of you.
which
I-
included
Which
There's an awful lot of flowing information, though. I
That's-
don't think that it's unreasonable to ask what the specifics of what we voted on
I agree.
should be provided. I mean,
That's
It
all
will
I'm
be
asking.
provided to the council.
But, okay, I'm not trying to beat the dead horse here. What I'm getting at, though, is there was a vote, there was 2 separate votes on the millage rate and the budget, but we're not even sure what we voted on, and we don't have a copy as of today, which from 2 weeks ago, over 2 weeks ago, was it 3 weeks, of what was approved. I mean, it seems very backwards. And then to add insult to injury, we're already at a shortfall for next year.
We are
of,
not
what
at
is
a
it, three?
shortfall for next year. We are looking at a potential budget deficit for 18-19, but that budget is not set yet.
That's right, but what we were reviewing, I mean, I don't even know any of these figures because we don't have them in front of us, was that we were $280,000 short. Now, I know $150,000 was the fire repairs, which we need, but next year we're going to have tax increases again. I mean, it just seems like, I don't know, I'm just looking for some answers of how we're going to address this, and that's why we have this as an item here.
Well, that does bring up a problem. If now people voted on a budget and they're now asking what they voted on, that's a pretty serious problem.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I voted against it, was because
That's a pretty serious
I wasn't
problem.
clear as to, I mean, we were doing this all on the fly, adding numbers, subtracting numbers. We had the resolution wrong twice before we finally voted on it. I mean, it's just, I think we need some help, seriously, some outside help, just given the magnitude of what we're looking at and what's in front of us.
Well, let's, okay, so I'm just presenting a solution, and council can choose to follow the solution and maybe get an ordinance in place that we can fall back on. I don't care whether it's passive or not. That may solve an impasse when we have a budget issue, when we have a taxing issue. These may become even more common rather than uncommon. So at least I came to the table with a solution. The chaos that was created on May 22nd and May 30th has not been noticed, has not gone unnoticed in surrounding communities. That there's a problem over here in South Lyon, and I think we all know it. So I think we need to get this budgeting issue under control. When I spoke with the director of finance out in Durango, Colorado, I asked her how long they spent working on their budget, and she said 7 months. I mean, that almost tells me that they are working on their budget out there. They have 18,000 residents, so they have maybe about 6,000 more than we do, and they're working on their budget 7 months out of the year. There are other communities that work on it year-round. So I think that what happened with this past budgeting season, I think council has to take a look at how it plans, and I'm going to make some suggestions tonight in terms of when to start the budgeting cycle and when to start requesting information, because this cannot go on.
John? The only problem that I'm seeing with this ordinance that you're suggesting is that it still doesn't actually, the only thing that it answers is what the actual millage rate would be. It doesn't assign values to any of the activities that are going to be conducted as a product of those revenues. So there's really nothing gained by doing that. You're still in the same level of chaos or discomfort of not knowing exactly what everyone's responsibilities financially will be during the course of the next fiscal year. So it makes a great deal more sense to try to determine exactly what things need to end up being, whether it's a matter of you have to reduce, even if it's a levy that's lower than what your previous year was, if that's what it takes, that's what it's going to end up ultimately taking. You have to determine whether you're willing to do a raise or where the cuts will be made to make your budget work for the next fiscal year. The idea of just having this autonomous fallback of saying that number remains from the previous year doesn't answer any of those questions.
Well, the issue was not with the budget. You have to recall that the budget passed.
Yeah, you can bang on that all you'd like. That really doesn't accomplish anything.
The budget passed.
Well, let's have a serious conversation of what
Well,
a solution
I am.
is.
I mean, you're part of the problem. The budget passed. The budget passed. What
Yeah, we
didn't
heard
pass was the funding mechanism for the budget. That's what did not pass. This ordinance, and I
The budget didn't pass.
No, it did.
No, it didn't,
No.
because the budget was rescinded at the next meeting.
The budget originally passed.
Okay, and it was rescinded, and then we moved on. So
Couple weeks later.
how about we move on with this conversation?
Well, I think that's the problem that
Start
this
thinking of
council-
something
That's the
constructive
problem
instead
this
of banging
council
on this
has, is
old
that they
noise.
don't work on solving solutions.
Okay, guys.
Solve
Get it
the
back.
problem. Quit attacking people, solve the problem. You have a problem in passing a budget and a levy. And I've come to the table with a solution. If you don't want it, that's fine. I just want
It's
to make
not
sure.
a solution.
Well,
It's a discussion, let's move
Yeah,
on.
so-
Well, I think
Can
we
we
should
have-
discuss
can we-
this.
well,
All right,
in your mind, it's
Maggie.
not a solution.
You brought it to the table, can
Okay,
Lynn
next,
take a look at it?
next-
Maggie, hold on.
Oh,
She brought it to the table. It makes a valid argument. I understand Glenn's point also. And, but I think being the trouble that we had this year getting this budget passed, and I made a comment earlier on to somebody, I don't remember even who it was at, it was after one of the meetings we had, that when you have changeover at council and you have new people coming on board, everybody has a comfort zone and an understanding of some of the numbers and some of the budget, how it works, and some of it how it doesn't work. But I kind of agree a little bit that it'd be pretty prudent to have some kind of discussions during the year of everybody being here on fire, police, DPW. Doesn't have to get into the numbers, but get into what's involved and what needs to be done. And I know Bob had us come out and want to do a tour and things like that, but I think government's changing and everybody's wanting to get their hands in a little bit more, and there's a big accountability factor. So to have something more, more than just fluid, something that we can tangibly look at and understand and get our hands into it, maybe when it comes time to passing budget time, it might go a lot smoother. So I don't disagree. We shouldn't maybe take a look to see what she's brought to the table has some merit to it, Lynn. That's all.
I think it is a real solution because what happened last
I
time
agree.
was we passed the budget originally,
Well, we all
passed
know
the
that.
budget, but not the mill levy. So if we had a mechanism in place where he said, okay, well, this is all the funding you have, you would have two options. You'd have to cut or you'd have to go into the fund balance, which nobody wants to do, so they would force everybody to come back to the table and make the cuts. That's exactly what the solution is. I mean,
The council should try, to, like Glenn said, try to solve the problem, but if we can't,
you need something,
that
though.
document kind of pushes it forward so Lisa can get things moving.
Right, so we have three
Kind
people.
of a living
yeah.
document anyway, in a sense, so we can make some adjustments as needed and get ourselves out of harm's way a little bit. You know, I mean, doesn't solve the problem, that by any means, but I just think it holds some merit to at least look at.
So I think what I'm hearing is at least three council members think it's a good idea. Other people are remaining quiet, and
Let's let
maybe
Lynn-
one's against. But sorry to interrupt.
Just haven't
Randy.
had a chance to speak yet. I was going to let you guys get everything out you wanted to say, then I was going to say something, so.
You don't have to be passive aggressive.
No,
That's
just-
okay. But
Who's being passive aggressive?
that's what it is. But
If I have an opportunity, look, the biggest problem we had with the budget is we had 3 meetings beforehand, special meetings, and each meeting was more chaotic than the next because we didn't have the information. That was the problem. I mean, it was impossible to do line item when we didn't know what we were talking about. So I think that has to be addressed next year, or throughout the course of this year. I think that was a big problem. Another big problem that I saw is we have to make it user-friendly. I mean, this is a budget that was so complicated, unless you've been on the council for a couple of years and understand what the heck the budget said, you would have no idea. And if we don't have an idea what it's saying, what is the public supposed to, how are they supposed to interpret this budget? So I think we have to work on that. But I think the biggest problem we had with the budget this year was it wasn't clear, and based on some comments tonight, and I have to agree, I'm still not 100% completely positive what we passed.
oh, Mike.
No, I am.
then why'd we vote? Why'd you vote for it?
Because we
haven't received, I'm sorry, Mike.
No. I have a pretty good idea what we passed. I would like to see it on paper.
Oh my gosh.
Well, we know what we think we passed.
Oh,
That's
Like the
the
healthcare
problem.
bill again. My
Yeah.
gosh.
Unexcusable.
No, but that's not.
They were
here.
direct, based on the discussions that we had had that evening, so
Here's the problem, guys
you can
and
feign.
gals. The problem I'm seeing is that we can't have productive meetings on the budget when we don't know what's being presented. That's the number one cause, I think, of all this problems we had this year. I've never been to a budget meeting before where we've had to have 3 or 4 meetings to clearly understand what was being discussed. I haven't done it. Been on this council for 7 years. This is the first time I've been in a situation where we had to work to the point where individual council members were making phone calls trying to clarify what was being presented in the budget. That can't happen again. It can't.
Well, and the level of clarity in the document itself was just so loose, and it was absurd.
Right. And I
So-
think we need to really focus on making the budget this next year user-friendly so everybody can understand what's going on in this budget.
And it can't be at
That
the
has to
11th
change.
hour again.
That has to change. Because, I mean, I know Wixom or other communities have very user-friendly budgets. We need that. So, I mean, as far as positive steps going forward are things that need to be changed. I agree with Maggie, there has to be some language included that we don't have this issue, what happens if we don't pass a budget, so it's clear in the charter what happens. I also think we need to focus on, if we have to, doing a budget update every month or two, just to find out where we're at and what needs to be addressed in the next couple of years. I mean, that was a whole part of the budget in the first place. We wanted a multi-year budget so we could see what our expenses would be, not just next year, but the year after. We need to get back to that.
Well, let me ask you, what is the advantage of having this fail-safe when you don't answer any questions that are causing the ambiguity of being able to pass a budget?
So
I mean, because you have to make deliberate decisions about what costs and where they go.
I understand, but what happens if we didn't pass the budget in the millage? What would have happened this time? I mean, the deadline's, what, Thursday? What happens if we still didn't get that budget passed or the millage passed? That we still didn't have a clear understanding? What would we have done? Would we have started doing mass layoffs? I mean, that's the issue. That's something that we need to look at as well. The consequences.
What is the consequence that's different by this document that's being suggested?
I'm just saying we have to fully understand the consequences of what would happen if we did not pass a millage or a budget.
Yeah, well, I still...
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying that's our
I
job.
still believe it's an overt action, not something that is foisted on you because you can't make a decision.
Well, that's why it's a discussion piece.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not voting on it. We have to see the pros and cons.
Well, there's a difference between past years and this year. In the past, I mean, the budget has been, and Mike, you said it, that this is the most time we've spent on the budget. In the past, it's basically been rubber stamped, and I think that's why there was so much constraint here. Yes, it wasn't organized well, that you can work on that, but in my opinion, it was already a foregone conclusion by some members of this council that there was going to be a tax raise. I mean, it was just a matter of how much, which I wanted to start at zero, but that didn't work out that way. But so you point the fingers all you want, but I think this is a decade-old problem, and it's finally catching up with us.
This is the first time in a decade we have raised the city millage operating, the operating millage. First time in a decade.
Yeah.
1999.
Well, at the same time, property values are going up and home values are going up, so people...
No, we had the recession. We had the recession in 2008,
How much are
2009,
houses going for in your sub
2010,
compared to last year,
2011?
2 years ago? It's going up.
The point I'm trying to make is
Went back to my purchase price.
in 20 years, 18 years, this is the first time we had to raise.
You
the
can
city
justify your, voting for the tax increase all you want, but the fact is, we voted for a tax increase, and we have a problem next year, and we have to develop some solutions. I agree. So,
That's why we're having a discussion on it, and
How-
we're going to continue having a discussion on it.
how much are we in the hole, Lynn, for 18-19, as it stands?
I don't have the spreadsheet in front of me.
I think it's over 100,000.
I thought it was 280,000. I mean, right there, that's another 0.7 mils or 0.4 mils or whatever it is. I mean, again, I think this is all over our heads. I think we have to get outside, whoever. Does Plant Moran offer audits and can really give us an audit and tell us, I don't know.
Well, the suggestion was made last time about the county. Harvey had suggested that they have the skill sets to be able to help us lay out plans to be able to accomplish exactly what we need to accomplish.
Have they
Did you
been?
go into more detail on that, Harv?
Well, I didn't, I'm not recommending that, but
Could you walk us through it?
The topic came up, and I just explained that the county has little different system. My point would be to this whole discussion, this is the first time I've been heard, is that the original documents that we got in the binder were obsolete by the time we got them. And you cannot start building a budget on sand. You just got to have a bottom line that this is where we are. And so the preparation that takes place and the development of the budget needs to be clear, needs to be organized, it needs to be collaborative between all facets and departments of the city, and then brought before council. Council shouldn't have to sit there and redevelop a budget. It should be presented in a manner that is ready to be voted on. Now, there's some policy issues that need to be resolved, and some people are never going to be happy. They're going to vote no for their own reasons. But most of us who are responsible about what we do study the budget, we do look at the material, and we do pay attention to it, we do ask questions. But you can't start without something that is a solid document. And that was our basic issue this year. And we've had budgets that come, I know Joe likes to say that we just rubber stamp budgets. We've had good budgets presented to us, and we've discussed them, and we've passed them. Some people just want to say no to whatever. I'm a haters, whatever. That's all I got to say. Thank you.
It's out of being responsible. So.
Mumble.
All right.
Well, I don't know if I agree with that, Waddell.
Mr. Waddell?
Well, whatever you want to call yourself.
Mr., my first name. Go
Well,
ahead and use that.
Well, I'll call you Waddell. And I think what it is that you have very responsible people up here that are voting no on the budget for very good reasons. That doesn't mean that they're not responsible. That means they're extremely responsible. They've probably have taken a harder look at the budget and came up with more reasons and said this is not ready to be voted on than those who were just saying, oh, I think it's time for me to vote on a budget. All the issues that I brought up, none of them were addressed in the budget, but that's okay. I'm not voting for it. But that doesn't mean that people aren't responsible. I think that is not a proper way to look at this, is that there's going to be varying opinions. There's going to be people that are going to be more scrutinizing of how this budget is put together. They're going to be more scrutinizing as to how the money is being spent and whether or not this budget prepares the city for any long-term difficulties or solves any problems. This budget solved none of the long-term problems that I identified in the budgeting process. It doesn't. It doesn't take care of any funding to take care of the contingent liability for MERS, and it definitely doesn't take care of the vacation pay to department heads, which is a contingent liability. It doesn't take care of it. So why would I vote for it? Why? But does that mean I'm not responsible? I would make the argument I'm more responsible than you are.
You
But
didn't vote for it. You snuck out of the room before the vote was taken.
That would be a lie, Mr. Waddell, which you have a habit of doing.
Look at
I
those
made it
minutes.
very clear to council that I had to leave at a certain time. I had a prior commitment, and I stayed even 15 minutes beyond that. But I think everybody knew I was not, if I was here, would not have voted on it. So
Read the minutes.
don't lie, Mr. Waddell, as to me sneaking out. I was very open and disclosed it on the record.
Maggie, if you were to vote today, the same vote, how would you vote?
I'd vote no on the budget
All
and
right.
no on the mill.
So that wouldn't change from the first vote? and-
Absolutely not.
Okay.
So
So I
getting
think,
back to your comment earlier, Maggie, about having some verbiage in the documentation for the charter somewhere down the line to alleviate what we're going through, what we've been going through, which we're going to continue to go through with this council and maybe future councils. It seems like it'd be prudent to at least look at it, Lynn, to see if there's something in there that would help all of everyone here do their job better.
Okay.
And, we shouldn't wait long-term to look at numbers and things that might come up. Again, it's a living document to a certain point, but you got to have a budget. You can't build it from the sand, as Harvey says. And I it was a difficult process trying to absorb all those numbers as fast as we were.
I'd like to make a suggestion that, first off, to give direction that that's going to end up being policy we need to draw up.
We didn't
Before
say
she,
that. We said have a
before
look
she
at it.
starts spinning her wheels using time to do this, how about if you get a consensus of what the board thinks? Or at least do an outline that might end up proving that that thing holds some real value in anything in the future before she spends a week trying to put something like that together.
I just heard four
Because
council
I'll tell you,
members say
going-
that.
just from my standpoint of sitting here with this council for 2 years now, it's been drawing a line in the sand and swinging a mallet back and forth. And I'm frankly tired of it. A lot of it's good. The conversation and dialogue, a lot of it's good, but a lot of it's garbage.
Well, if
It's
there's a
like,
majority
well,
that wants
wait,
to do
wait,
that,
wait a
that's
second,
fine. But
just
how
wait.
about just getting a consensus?
Just calm down for a second. This is like being like a kindergarten teacher sometimes. We're supposed to be holding ourselves to a much higher level, and we sure as heck aren't, and everybody's guilty of it, and everybody can say they're not. But the bottom line is the proof's on the camera, and the proof's on who you talk to out in the field, who you talk to. Everybody's got their constituents and their friends, and they're telling you you're doing it right, you're doing it wrong. The bottom line is this budget didn't go smooth, and part of it was it wasn't prepared for us the way it should have been.
I
And
don't
we're all
think there's
arguing
any
with each
question
other
in
because
that.
None of us have the same expertise. And to have some information, maybe some documentation in there to protect all of us and to protect the city is not a bad idea to at least look at. It doesn't mean we're going to do it. It just
John,
means it's something.
you've seen how many things have fallen short. Most of this stuff is being assigned to a particular person in this administration. So you want to end up redirecting their efforts into something instead of accomplishing the things that they're already responsible for. You want to end up creating this, let's investigate whether this stuff might end up being the magic bullet we need.
It's not a magic bullet.
No, it's actually not. There's really nothing I see constructive from it. You
even if
still
we
end
had
up
the
answering all the
documentation in there,
questions
like
when
you
it's
said. I
done.
agree.
Could I
That's what-
finish now?
I don't understand why you're even arguing. We're arguing kind of the same thing.
No, actually, we're not,
Different.
because I'm asking if there's a majority of this body that thinks that it's a good idea to pursue that, then that's one thing. Just a proclamation, your proclamation to say do it, is not the same thing.
I didn't say do it. I said it's worth investigating. This is our city manager. This is the person that we're supposed to trust. This is the person that we do put this information on because we all have full-time jobs and we all do other things besides sitting here. So if someone has that time on their hands to do all this investigating on their own, go for it. I sure don't. You don't. And that's why I'm saying.
What do you think, who is in charge of putting the budget together? Well, I can tell you, the department heads had everything forwarded in January. So we had an awful lot of idle time with nothing being constructed. So let's get that on the table. We need to address where the problems lie, not try to end up covering this stuff up with some kind of mystery solution
I said that in
here.
my conversation also, Glenn. I said to hear that stuff early on and not waiting to the very end to get it, I agreed with you on that. I tried to absorb this information like everyone else. There was an awful lot of information to me that was missing, wasn't adding up. And we all have a different expertise in our reading of the budget numbers, so to have it pass the way we were trying to pass it was going to become difficult. So I agree. Early on, we need to have more dialogue and more conversation because to me, I haven't been on the city council in a long time. It wasn't many years ago. It wasn't presented like this.
No, everything
I
was
agree.
done on the fly.
So
Back then, everything was locked down well before you're in jeopardy of having a problem like we had.
It was rubber stamped.
And that's just nonsense.
Well,
You have no idea what you're talking about.
Okay.
all right, let's move on.
The next question that I have, this goes to the city attorney. I had an opportunity to spend some time looking at the General Property Tax Act, and I'm looking at MCL 211.24E, small letter E. And I'm looking at subsection 3. And subsection 3 then refers me to other subsections. But the import of reading subsection 3 on that particular statute is, all I want to know is, are we complying with this statute in terms of giving public notice as to what we are doing with respect to raising a millage?
If this is the truth in taxation
Yep.
issue, I did look at that, and I believe we met the requirement.
Well, I'm looking at subsection 6. Subsection 6 is pretty detailed about letting the public know whether or not, it's not just whether you're raising the mill, it's not just whether or not there's going to be a mill change, it's a mill levy, it's whether or not you're increasing it.
I can certainly, I
all I
don't
wanna
have the
know.
statute in front of me, I can certainly follow up, but I remember looking at that after the May 22 meeting, because I was concerned about a different mill levy for the general operating being, and having a different notice requirement under that statute. But I think the general requirement is that it be, the city provided the notice of the public hearing and the proper notice that a potential tax increase was to be discussed at that point in time.
But I thought that you had to state what the percentage of the additional mill rate was going to be, and was that put in the original notice?
I don't have an answer for you sitting here.
Okay, that's all I want. I just want to know whether or not we've had compliance, and I think it's important for council to understand that, once again, we're coming around to the mill, and there are some statutory requirements in terms of notice that are a little bit different than your normal notice. So this is probably a good time to bring that out too, as a continuing education, whatever.
Well, let me ask you, if it wasn't notified correctly, would that invalidate it, or how would that?
I don't know. I mean, I don't, maybe we did comply with it. I just had questions, and I'm not a tax attorney. I understand that you have a tax attorney in your firm. Maybe they can just take a look at this and you'll know real quick, whether or not. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know what it would do if we didn't comply. I don't know.
Okay, thanks.
But I think it's an issue that we need to stay cognizant of when we are adjusting these mills on the fly, like what was done on May 30th. You have to be cognizant that if you're going to sit there and in a special emergency meeting because the sky is falling, you might have some additional notice requirements that should have been given to the public regarding what you're going to do that night. So let's sort of work through that issue and get that under control too. Another thing that I noticed when I started working on the budget last year, taking a hard look at it, and noticed that the mill wasn't properly levied for servicing debt on the bond, is looking at the city's revenues and the property revenues, which there's been a lot of discussion about that at the last couple meetings. But I can't stress how important it is for the city to have that second stream of revenue, because it's clear to me, even clearer now than it was a year ago, that the city is going to have this as a constant problem moving forward, is its revenues are leveling off with respect to property tax revenue. And that if the city's going to want to do the things that they want to do, such as develop volunteer park, continue assisting with the downtown, add enhancements in McCaddy Park, then we need that second source of revenue. And that second source of revenue, even though we talk a lot about it, we haven't seen a lot of results, and that's on the grant side. I did want to at least bring out just a little bit of information. That grants really are a substantial second source to municipal financing, and that's an area that the city clearly lacks for whatever reason. That's one of the reasons why I voted for the computer program that the city can tap into in terms of looking for grants. In fact, I would probably say that probably the most important issue with respect to the city's revenue is going to be its grant abilities in the next couple of years. The property taxes are going to roll in. There's no effort required there. The effort really is going to have to come on the tax revenues. If you go to the newspaper and read the article online regarding the city of Westland, Leanne Rogers did a very, very excellent article on that. I would encourage everyone in City Council to read it. It's regarding the city of Westland. When you read that article, Leanne very perceptively picked up on the points that Westland received substantial grants for police, for fire, and what I found astonishing, and I believe this was also in your article, Leanne, and tell me if I'm incorrect, Westland also contributed about $300,000 to their unfunded pension fund. So, and they did not raise taxes. So here you had a city that had, I believe, I can't recall if they had an emergency financial manager at some point, or they did not, okay. But somehow they have managed to work through their financial issues with taxes with property taxes that are leveling off. And they've been able to accomplish everything that we should be able to do, and that is to find the grants for police, for fire, or for anything, and be able to make contributions to our unfunded pension fund, which Westland's able to do. Green Oak, I don't know if people are aware of this, but Green Oak has received on a continuing grant program. They just received $560,000 for their trail program. They received about 2 weeks ago a new grant for fire. It's over $200,000. I don't know, Chief Kennedy, were you aware of that?
It's for the breathing apparatuses. I think it was 229.
What do you know about that grant?
We've applied for it. We've applied for it every year that I've been here. We were successful last year with getting hose. We have not heard if we were successful this current year on it. So prior to my tenure, they did receive it for current SCBA, which is what Green Oak has. So we are well versed on that. Regarding the point with Westland, that is for full-time staffing. And so that's when you hear most of these communities getting grants, it is for career staffing with the understanding that the city then will pick that up going forward. I know that there is no appetite for that within this city, thus we have not pursued those grants. But every year we've applied for, there's 3 streams of federal grant funding. One's for staffing, one's for equipment, and one's for prevention. Every year we've been applying for the equipment, and we've been applying for the prevention ones. We've been successful some years, we have not been others.
You know, maybe what we need to do is have an evening set aside where the agenda item is nothing but grant writing, and give you an opportunity to make your case for grants out there. And if we can be of any assistance, that would be great. Because apparently these grants that are coming in for police and fire are pretty substantial and are contributing substantially to these budgets. So we got to find a way.
So I would strongly argue that we are on top of that. I spent a significant amount of time researching this, and in defense, Green Oak didn't do that on their own. They did that with a 12-department grant through Washtenaw County. So a lot of that heavy lifting was done for them. So this wasn't Green Oak. I mean, we have a great relationship with them, but I spend a lot of time and energy every year working on grants and applying, so I'm not going to sit here and say that we're being deficient in that. I feel very strongly that we're for that. Our current SCBA are 100% compliant. We're up to date. You've got to be 3 cycles out of NFPA compliance in order to receive the federal funding. We are not, or else I would have jumped on that regional grant. We had the opportunity to do that. We did not meet the eligible criteria to do that. So we're continually looking for them. FEMA is the main grant provider. Every once in a while there'll be some very random, very specific grants that we do apply for. What we apply for is also another retention and recruitment one that becomes more difficult. A lot of it has to do with cities like Flint, cities like Westland that have had reductions, but they're very term limited with the idea that you are bringing career staff on going forward.
But you have to carry them, you're obligated to carry them afterward, correct?
That's exactly
Yeah,
it.
so that's a big-
exactly it. It's a
big
big
lift,
nugget,
yeah.
yeah.
Right.
And I haven't even brought that forward because I knew that there was not the appetite for that here. So,
Well, your grant writing is good. I mean, there's no doubt about it. And clearly the city has benefited from it, and you're very astute at it. I think the point is that we need more of it, and we need to become very, very proactive in this because other communities are doing it, and it's becoming a fairly substantial part of their budget. And I think it's more critical for us is because that is our second source of revenue. We need it.
I will not argue against the merit of grant writing. I have seen communities that have become too dependent on them, and then when they don't happen, then they get into the Chicken Little. It's like, well, you painted yourself in this corner becoming grant dependent.
Yeah.
Waterford was a key issue of that. Basically, half their department was grant funded, it didn't go through, and then so woe was us. Well, you knew this grant was only good for 3 years, and then when you failed to plan,
Is that how they lost part of their department?
yes, that's exactly how.
Okay,
That's
now
exactly
I get
how.
it. So they didn't go to a mill?
No,
A dedicated mill?
No, they thought that the grant was going to get renewed. It didn't, and then it bit them. And that's Flint's been in that same boat. Waterford's been in that same boat. So when you see these grants for $300,000-$400,000, that's all career staffing with the understanding that it's usually 3 years and then you own them, and it cuts off. And so if the city or township doesn't pick that up, those folks are getting laid off. And yeah, you had them for that time. In Waterford, there was a huge investment because they had to unfunded liabilities for pension and gear and all this other stuff. So at the end of the day, it was a struggle for them. But these big ticket fire department grants that you're getting are for staffing. It's for career staffing.
Why do you think Waterford did not go with a dedicated mill for the fire department? I'm just curious.
I don't even want to begin to try to. I don't know their circumstances well enough. I know that when you hear of these situations where it's because they became dependent on that federal stream and it got shut off and then they were caught without a dedicated mill. Why they didn't, I have no idea.
That's interesting. Thank you.
But
Thank you.
I do want to say that we are constantly on the lookout for grants. Every single year we're applying to those federal grants. We've been successful some years, other years we haven't. So,
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
Excuse me, Maggie. I should echo what Chief Kennedy said with respect to the police side. The same is true on the community-oriented police grants. In fact, the police department has taken advantage of 2 such grants in the past. Each time we added 2 additional personnel. That was back in the probably early to mid-90s. First grant, the second one was toward the late 90s. And it's true with those grants also. It's either complete or only partial funding depending on the nature of the grant. And then the municipality agrees not only that you're going to retain those people and pick up the full salary at the end of the grant, but those grants have strings attached, and at the front end of the grant, you're agreeing you will keep those people for X number of years beyond the life of the grant. So you're actually locking yourself in to greater expenses at the end of the grant.
I would also point out that the walking trails grant that Green Oak Township just got is for the construction of a brand-new walking trail. There are not trail grants available for resurfacing. South Lyon does not have plans at this point to add to our trail system. We are working with the Parks and Rec Commission. We will be seeking grants for the development of Volunteer Park, but also with development and streetscaping in the downtown. South Lyon isn't eligible because we already went to that trough of water. We got a streetscape grant from MDOT several years ago, 15, 20 years ago. They redid the sidewalks, they put up the new light poles, and we aren't eligible to apply for that again. So a lot of these grants that other communities are getting, South Lyon has already received in the past, and therefore we're not eligible for currently.
We have to find that second stream of revenue.
So
Can't be lost that we spent thousands of dollars on that software to be able to investigate grants from virtually any public or private source. So
And I review that software on a weekly basis for any new grants that are up. But based on the grants that I have seen, they are not grants that are in the priority line of the city council. Developing the downtown, doing street improvements, working on our parks. There are not currently grants available for that. There will be as we bundle for Volunteer Park, the fundraising, the grant writing, additional private foundation grants that we can get through that for Volunteer Park. Same with potentially McCaddy Park or doing any development in our other parks. But again, there's all kinds of trail grants, but only if you're constructing a brand new trail. We aren't doing that. We don't have the land to do that. We need to be finding ways, if it's sponsorships, things like that as a second stream of revenue, to not only reconstruct but maintain the trail system that we've got, because all of our adjacent communities are adding to their trail system and ours is wearing out.
It just, once again, we need a second source of revenue. So whether it comes to grants or bottling water and putting South Lyon on it, I don't know. But a second stream of revenue is needed, whether you open up a GoFundMe page. I don't know what the answer is, but a second stream of revenue is required if this city wants to do the things that it wants to do.
Agreed.
I mean, we have to find that second source of revenue. When I spoke with Jennifer Brown out in Durango, she told me that their city alone this year is going to have about $9 million in state and federal grants. And that's about what they get a year. I mean, almost a third of their budget is yearly coming in at about that rate. So different city. They have an airport, so I'm sure that has some of it. Julie did say that they had an airport out there, so some of these grants that were coming in were coming from the FAA. But the point is that this city has found a way to tap into grants on a yearly basis, and they're coming into the city. I mean, Lyon Township got road commission grants within 2 years. We've been begging for 15 years to get the road commission to come out here and help with something, and in 2 years they get something fixed out there on Napier and 10 Mile. Millions of dollars from the road commission. So my comment is grants. It's got to be a focus. But I don't know how other council members feel about that.
No, I agree completely. I mean, that's actually why I wanted to put one of the goals as having a certain amount as grants. I mean, the amount, that can be debated, but in my opinion, it not just Lynn, but whoever is in charge of the grant should be bringing in at least as much money as we're paying you as your salary, so you can justify your job, just in general. And so whatever that dollar amount is, that can be debated, but I agree it should be a priority.
I think that was about it of the issues that I just sort of wanted to start touching on. I think it's probably a good idea. I'd like to see on the next agenda the budget put on, and we start setting some timetables for when we're going to either start talking about budget updates or start talking about where we're at with the budget, anything. We need to start the process of dealing with the budget. We need to start a timetable. Maybe we start working on the budget beginning October 1st. And maybe October 1st is when department heads start submitting information. Maybe Lynn needs to, by that time, by October, November, maybe by the 1st of December, Lynn says this is what the departments have submitted in order to sustain this level of expenditure. This is what the mill rate potentially will need to be, so that we start talking about the mill rate, informing the public what the mill rate's going to be. I don't think the public has a problem with the levy, with the mill increasing, but they have to be explained as to what this mill is going to go for. They don't want a mill increase just to cover for past mistakes. They want to know what they're getting out of it. And so if you have an explanation for where the money's going to go, how it's going to be spent, you may not have resistance in raising the mill.
I think
We need
before.
to start
oh,
sooner.
Sorry, I would say before we can even begin there, I think we need to understand what was passed, first of all.
Yeah, you don't even know what you passed.
So I didn't pass. I mean, I guess
All right,
council
we don't-
did, but, so we'll have to see, and I'd like to see that uploaded to the website. Ideally, that should be, the proposal should be uploaded before we vote on it. But seeing what was actually passed, that way we can understand truly if the millage rate balances with the budget that was passed, because I'm not confident that it actually boxes up. Again, asking about the police car, I don't even know if it's chief is getting a car or not. I don't know that. So, yeah.
Are you getting a car?
At this point, I inquired of the manager, I'm not sure either, because
That's, I mean,
I'm not.
and that's the problem I have is not necessarily we can argue or debate if you deserve, not deserve, but needed to have a new car or not. But the issue is we don't even know. I mean, I brought the form from our last meeting where we were talking about kind of the summary, what's next, and it was shown that originally 2 police cars were budgeted on the first budget. Then it was reduced down to 1. So it went from 78,000 down to 39,000. So in my mind, what was passed included that car. But I don't know. I don't know what was passed. It was all so quick and loose. I don't know.
I think having the budget online in ample time for people to have a good idea of what it is that we're trying to project that we want to do, it makes perfect sense. I mean, even if it's a fluid document and it's going to be in transition, so you modify it during the course of all the changes. I mean, people should be able to look up so they can opine about whether or not we're making decisions that they think are in the best interest of that community. So
what's next? So we get the budget, what was passed? we
yeah, do
study
you
it?
have an idea when you're going to have that information for us?
I hope to have it up on, ready for you on Tuesday. Do you want it just uploaded, or do you want another hard copy?
I'd like another hard copy because I marked mine up.
It does make it easier.
I don't need the folder or anything, just
If you can just do the pages that are modified.
give me the whole budget.
Yeah, I don't want to have to.
I'm not, no, that's the problem. Don't give me what's modified, give me the budget that was approved, or what these people think they approved. I want to see the budget, because they didn't have the budget in front of them when they took their vote. They just had pieces of paper. There was no budget.
That's correct. And we would like a budget.
So what happens if the budget's off? The numbers don't box. Do we have to rescind it? I mean, again, but it's too late. I
This
mean,
is South Lyon, anything could happen. Jeez.
People who hate the city hate the city. What can I tell you?
Yeah, well, at least I'm honest and truthful.
Nothing pleases you.
Not lying to the taxpayer.
John, we've been in this an hour and 10 minutes.
no,
How
but
about
what
we
happens
move
though?
on?
It's a serious
Everybody's
question.
contributed to this as well.
Let's
move on.
It's a
Let's
serious
move on,
question.
Joe.
What if it
Let's move
doesn't box? I want to know what the next steps are, because we don't know. We don't know what's passed.
Ask your lawyer.
I don't know. Leave that one hanging out there, I guess.
All right, we've talked this to death. What's next? You got your next one there, Maggie. Open meeting.
Yeah, this is kind of important. I stay on top of these Open Meeting Act opinions that are starting to come out of the circuit courts. This is a pretty good one that came out of Macomb County. It's recent. I had some friends email it to me. May 23rd. I do not know whether or not they've taken an appeal yet. And I think it'd be foolish on Macomb Township to do it. But I found this particular opinion educational because it dealt with a closed meeting. And I think anytime we have an opportunity to learn and to become better at conducting closed meetings, I think that's always useful for council. What was interesting about this particular opinion is that there was an unauthorized discussion that occurred in their closed meeting. Actually, it dealt with them hiring an attorney as their general counsel. And that was not authorized to be a topic to be discussed in a closed meeting. So the court gave a very good discussion. There were also violations alleged in the complaint regarding the closed meeting, which I'd like to note has also been noticed in this city council's closed meetings back in 2013, failure to take a roll call vote before you go into session. Although the court did not address that, that is an issue and could be construed as a violation of the Open Meetings Act, which I'd like to bring that to council's attention. So you're starting to get some case law out there regarding these closed meetings, and I'm going to continue to follow up on them and provide them for council to just read and learn, because I learned a couple things. Particularly, Tim, I think you'd find instructful is the issue on how they handled the minutes of a closed meeting. I have been unable to find clear discussion on that, and this opinion helps out pretty well. On another issue regarding the Open Meetings Act, there was a discussion on City Council by one of the council members that, and it dealt with the police department. And that discussion on the record raised concerns with people in Lyon Township as to who was spoken to in the township regarding possibly merging police departments. You have to be careful when you say that you spoke with people in a particular entity, and you've got to be careful when you say that that entity was either on board or agreed, because what happens is that residents in that community may not be in favor of what is being proposed, and then of course they're going to ask, when did these discussions occur, who attended these discussions, were these an open meeting or closed meeting? And so it creates all kinds of havoc like this particular discussion did. So I would just like to remind persons on council that if you speak with somebody from another entity and it involves a decision or a discussion, be very careful how you phrase it, because you may be creating problems that aren't really there. So to the residents of Lyon Township that contacted me, and for those that contacted Lyon Township, I can tell you that I had no discussions with anybody in Lyon Township regarding anything with the police activities, and I am thoroughly confident that there was no violation of the Open Meetings Act, both from South Lyon City Council or Lyon Township.
John, if I may, can I speak to that? Because I am the particular council member who brought it to the table. In regards to that, yes, I did speak with Sean O'Neill, and Sean O'Neill actually mentioned it at the last Lyon Township meeting as well, I believe, because we spoke about just the possibility of that happening. It's not, yes, it is going to happen, yes, we should bring this to the table. It was just a possibility that was tossed out there, and I did the research. I called the county. I spoke with all the individuals that I brought to the table with my facts and figures, and I received a lot of pushback. But I think that's part of being an elected official. You're going to propose ideas, which you're supposed to, especially in the instance that we were in a budget crisis. We still are, and we had council members up here saying, no, 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 I'm not going to approve this, but not bringing anything to the table, nothing. And you had people from the audience coming up saying, hey, you know, I want to hear these bold ideas, South Lyon elected officials. What are they? So this was a bold idea. I went on a limb, and I look at it from both sides. I see Lyon Township's perspective. I see South Lyon's perspective, and I have the utmost respect for both townships and all of the residents within them. It was just an idea. It was just a suggestion. The people have spoken. I get it. Like I said, the pushback, I heard from both sides. I heard the pushback, but I also heard the support as well. I had emails from both sides. And Sean O'Neill and I were on the same page. It was just a discussion piece. It wasn't, yes, let's do this, let's get on board with everyone else. And that's exactly how I mentioned it at the previous meeting. I believe it was on May 22nd, was, hey, what about we just throw this idea and discuss it? And again, it was just something that was an idea. And that ship has sailed. We're moving on. But again, I appreciate your advice and I respect it, Maggie. Thank you.
All right, I think that's enough on the Open Meetings Act. I think we get it. Let's move on to the budget, consider budget amendments.
So we're done.
I'm not quite sure what that even means.
We're on number 5.
We're done with.
We're still.
I have a comment about the Open Meetings Act. that's okay.
Before consider budget amendments. Let's just as long as we don't get back into this.
Yeah, I just wanted to give a compliment to, okay, I'll tread lightly, understand. Wanted to give a compliment to council, actually, as it relates to these open or closed meetings. In the past, there was some meetings that happened, I think it was the first half of 2015, over half of our meetings were, treading lightly, John, I understand. Over half of our meetings were closed meetings. It was just over stuff that should not have been closed meeting. We made decisions that should have been made in the open. I really think there was a violation there, but that's not for me to decide. So I made a stand saying that we need to stop these closed meetings, and ever since the new election, there has, I don't think there's been a few for collective bargaining, which are permitted under the Open Meetings Act. So I'm happy to see that practice of going into closed meeting and abusing that has been reduced and I would say eliminated. So good job to council on that. Thank you.
Number 4.
Yeah, you're right.
So consider budget amendments.
Okay, there was a set of budget amendments in your packet. Over email discussions on Thursday, there were some changes, so you should have gotten a new set via email and in front of you. What these budget amendments do is they allow for the payout of legacy accumulated vacation time as well as allocate other general fund monies to cover expenditures elsewhere. The first is to amend 101-200-702 wages and salaries from $410,000 to $313,495.
303.
Huh?
It says 303,490.
You should have a second set that
Right.
was put in front of you tonight that was also
A loose
emailed to
copy on
you.
the desk, yeah.
It was
$10,000
emailed to you
swing.
on Friday,
quite a
and
bit of
it should
swing.
be in front of you.
Can we really vote on this tonight without having the budget even ready?
These are 16-17
Yeah,
budget
these are
amendments.
this year's.
Our current budget.
Well, the total swing is $17,831, so we keep that.
So, the second one is 101-276-702 wages and salaries from $58,000 to $66,100. That's the cemetery department. Fringes in the same department, account number 715 from $10,004 to $11,752. Wages in 101-300-702 from $1,439,948 to $1,469,948. Wages in the account 101-335-702 from $238,376 to $256,477. And 101-690 wages and salaries from $59.50 to $86.23.
So you said the vacation payout is included in this year?
The vacation payout that is on this evening's agenda is included in these budget reallocations.
So
So we're taking wages and salary funding that was improperly allocated to administration, moving it to police, to fire, to DPW, and to cemetery.
because I had some questions on the actual purchase of vacation time, which I wanted to talk about, which we're actually voting on after these budget amendments. So in my opinion, we should have probably had the budget amendments after we talked about the purchase of the vacation time, unless we're going to talk about it now.
Except I have been asked by council several times to bring budget amendments before we bring expenditures. So if we discuss vacation time payouts before we discuss the budget amendments, that is contrary to that.
Could you reiterate what that last line of numbers were?
The 101,690,702 is from 59,500 to 80,623.
Okay. I thought I'd heard you say something different. So, as I said, the delta on that is, we're still 17,831 in the black from that, so.
But Joe has a point. If we don't approve the vacation buyback, wouldn't that affect the budget, budget amendments that you're proposing?
Not necessarily, because the budget amendments can stand on their own. You can choose to make the buyouts or not, but other than the police
Yeah, which line?
and the DPW, those budget amendments need to be made anyhow, because we're not making vacation payouts out of the cemetery fund or the cemetery fringe benefits,
The council
or
hasn't
for the
authorized,
fire department.
council hasn't authorized vacation payouts, but I see what you're saying, though, putting it out there.
Do you mean approve the proposed third quarter amendments or second quarter amendments?
Third quarter amendments. Unfortunately, I was having an admin help me with the packet this week as I was out of the office on Thursday.
January, February, March would be first quarter. April, May, end of June would be.
We're actually into the fourth quarter.
I'm going to say, is that fourth?
You started.
Oh, your fiscal year starts.
Starts on July
Okay.
1. So
Okay.
these are fourth quarter.
Okay.
These are actually fourth quarter.
These are actually
Says
fourth
third.
quarter
Yeah.
amendments.
Yes.
Okay. Not third.
My personal comfort level is, I'm not opposed, we can talk about this more in the next, but I'm not opposed to paying Chief and Bob what they're owed. I just have some questions as to the schematics and how the payouts are going to be done and how we get to those dollar amounts, because certainly they're owed their money. I'm not arguing that. So I feel uncomfortable voting for an amendment, not knowing exactly how much is going to be allocated when I know how much is going to be allocated, how much actually is going to be paid out without having a deeper dive, understanding the numbers. That's my personal level of comfort.
I apologize. I thought I had put that calculation in.
No, I think it's in the next item, but I'm saying with that item, I do have some questions as to how we're getting to that number, because I think there's maybe some issues we need to address. So my comfort is not exactly 100% on the payout as it is without having my questions asked. So I can't vote to approve a budget amendment when I'm not comfortable with one of the numbers that we're paying for, amending to pay for.
Yeah, how much is it?
I think there was a separate attachment, right? Because what we have here is, yeah, it just says
Half of the
707 hours. Purchase of approximately half of his current banked hours would equal 524 hours.
Right, and I'm struggling to connect to the server
Okay.
so that I can get those exact amounts for
Well,
payout.
if I can have discussion, I'll just kind of tell you what my concerns are, is that I just wanted to understand with the payout that's going to be proposed, is that based off of salary,
That's
today's
based off of
salary?
Today's salary, yes.
Okay,
That's why we're
because-
paying it prior to the end of the fiscal year.
So what I was going to say was, if he's been, not just you, Chief, but whoever the case may be, this applies to, if you've been banking hours for, just don't quote me on these years, but 20 years, let's just make up a number, you were obviously making less money 20 years ago than you are now. So the time you banked from 20 years would be at a lower amount than it is today. So there really, in my opinion, needs to be an analysis of how many hours were banked each year and have a payout based off of some real numbers, not just given the whole. Sounds like we're skipping some steps here.
Well,
And again, I'm not opposed to paying the money because you're owed. I just want to make sure it's the most fair for the city.
my understanding is that with accrued vacation, it's automatically paid at the current rate of pay. There is no legal mechanism for paying at lower rates based on when it was accrued, no different than if he were to, if the two employees in question were to retire tomorrow, they would be paid out their accrued vacation based on the current rate of pay.
Well, is that spelled out in our hand? I don't have the handbook
It's
in front
not
of me.
spelled
too.
out in the handbook.
And that's another one of my concerns, is that since it's not spelled out in the handbook, I think maybe we're putting the cart before the horse. I don't want to vote on something until I know for sure that we're addressing the root cause and the root problem.
I agree. I'll make a motion that we postpone this to the next meeting because it's still within this last, we'll still have another meeting before the end of the fiscal year, won't we?
Fiscal year, yes.
Yeah.
But we may not have another pay period.
Well, that's okay. We don't have to pay it out next meeting or even a month from now. I mean, Chief said that he requested this a year ago and it was denied.
Yeah,
And the money hasn't been there in the past.
Right.
If we don't pay it out until after July 1st, we're into a new budget year, and there is not a guarantee that the money will be there.
we can't issue a separate check.
What?
Here's the
Without
concern.
Lori being here, I don't,
I don't even know what we're being asked to approve as far as vacation payout, the exact amount.
What kind of dollars are we talking about?
Yeah.
for the chief, we are looking at and this is a rough figure.
Well, salary's 90 something. 350 hours, that's maybe 20,000 or so.
Not without subtracting withholding taxes, MERS, that type of thing. For the chief, based on 707 hours, you are looking at approximately $31,808.54.
So I guess my point is, if we've been accumulating, not we, but the city has been accumulating this payout for however many years, probably a decade plus, I just don't see the urgency that we have to pay it out tonight. I mean, I just don't get it. It's like, why not 5 years ago? Why not next year? Why does it have to be, we have to get it done tonight?
I guess there's money in the budget to pay for it this year.
Well, I don't,
No, but I agree. I mean, I don't have a problem putting it over to the next meeting as long as we can pay it out under this year's budget.
well, I do want to see the policy change, though. I mean, I want to make sure we don't kick this down the,
I
kick the
have
can down the
already
road.
begun researching new personnel bank vacation time policies.
Not only that, I want to see it changed, and then in addition, like I said, the breakdown, unless I'm missing something legally, I think it should be based off of what the wage was for the year that it was actually accumulated. Unless I'm, again, missing something legally, I can't answer that question. That's why I'm bringing it up tonight.
All right, we have a motion on the table to postpone this.
Are we postponing both the budget amendments and the payout?
Well, well, are we in further discussion, I guess?
Yeah.
Which line items are for the, under the proposed budget amendments, which line items are for the payment of the accrued vacation time?
702?
The 101-200, 101-300, and 101-690.
Those are for the accrued vacation payouts?
Correct.
Okay.
So just make the motion and do not refer to the motion, but refer to each of the item numbers and don't include 702, 200, 702, 101-300, 702, or 690, 702.
Okay, I'll rescind my motion to postpone or withdraw. And then I'll make the motion that we approve the requested budget amendments limited to 101-276, 702, 101-276, 715, and 101-335, 702.
Did you also do, part of it needs to include 101-200, 702, because that's where we're taking the money out of. So we can reduce what we're taking out of it. One second.
Oh, you said
It seems to me that.
Yeah, I just realized that we were taking money out of that administration line item for the other two.
You said an admin prepared this? I mean, I'm just confused.
Joan,
Okay.
Lisa, and my administrative assistant.
I'd like just a little clarity. Was this requested by the employees, or was this a way to free some financial burden?
The one from the police department was requested by the employee. Mr. Martin has been on vacation for 2 weeks, and I could not make that conversation happen with him as he's out of the country. So, but he has brought forward to me a request for a payout before.
Okay, so
And-
both of them were requested then?
Yes.
So is.
There's a
Is
motion.
the page that we have in front of us here, the budget amendment page, is that correct?
Yes, but you didn't want to make the budget amendments for the police and the DPW. So if you approve the budget amendments for
We
everything,
didn't.
but
I'm asking the question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
if you move to approve the budget amendments for everything but 101-300, 702, and 101-690, 702, then that would resolve all the issues.
Resolve what issue?
Of the budget amendments that have nothing to do with vacation buyback.
Okay.
So, the two that we need to take out for purposes of approving the budget amendments are 101-300, 702, and 101-690, 702?
Correct.
All right, I will withdraw my motion again, strike two, and I will make for the final time my motion to approve the requested budget amendments limited to the following line items: 101-200, 702, 101-276, 702, 101-276, 715, and 101-335, 702.
All right, I can second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So do we need something now in regards to the ones we aren't?
No, you can just choose not to do those because you want to wait until after further discussion on the vacation buyback, which I'm presuming someone is going to move to postpone to the next meeting.
I am. I'm going to make the motion that we,
We may have some discussion on this, though.
oh, yeah.
No discussion?
I'm sorry. No, you're right. You're right. We can have discussion. My bad. Never mind. Withdraw that one, too.
That's okay. I'm not in favor of approving any vacation buyback at this time. until I actually approve the amendment to the handbook. That puts an end to this practice. I think we're looking at hopefully a policy that says use it or lose it. I wouldn't be opposed to making that policy effective January 1st of 2018 to give those employees that have relied on this policy in the past, give them 6 months to readjust their plans or their schedules or do whatever they want to do. But I'm about solving the problem. I don't want to approve any of this until I know that the problem has been solved. This is a contingent liability for the city. It has not been budgeted for in the budget, as far as I could tell. I doubt whether it's ever been budgeted to pay, or otherwise we would have seen a line for contingent liabilities carried over. But it's not there. And so I think that this is a problem that needs to be solved. Most communities are moving towards use it or lose it. Green Oak has gone to that policy, I believe, maybe 10 years ago. You might want to check with them and see how long they've had that policy in place. But what I would do is amend the handbook, and if the handbook can be amended by the next meeting, I would be willing to vote for it. Other than that, I'm not going to vote for anything until the problem gets solved. Paying out the money doesn't solve the problem. Solve the problem, then you will cap your liability and then get people paid off.
Yeah. I like the idea of us modifying the rules for future use. Using it, I don't know, maybe there's some soft ground for an additional year where you can encumber some vacation or accrue some vacation time. And rather than the idea that those holding any substantial amounts of vacation right now, I'd like the idea of softening the withdrawal to like 5 years or something, so we don't have one felled swoop where we're purged of all the vacation time in one felled swoop, to make sure that people don't end up losing any of the stuff that they had accrued. So we could soften that line a little bit and not have to take quite the same amount of a financial blow over a real short window. But I do think that this is sort of industry practice now to not be able to have these enormous values just kind of hanging around. So it's a sign of the times for us.
Most businesses, most corporations, the company I work for did the same thing just within the last year. Joe's purchasing where you're at and whatever. I mean, it's starting to happen. But they're not allowing any of us to do it, so.
Outside of department heads, is anyone else available to capitalize on this?
Bookkeeper, right?
Believe
The
at least 2 union collective bargainings have
Well, those
some.
we're not going to change.
Well, but they're not going to change immediately,
Right,
but.
next negotiation, but those are what they are right now.
Yeah, but they are vastly more limited than what non-union employees are.
Yeah, so that seems easy enough to wither away at, so.
John, and that was my comment originally, was I don't want to kick this can down the road, so I'm of the same position that I'm not going to approve any buyouts, no matter who it is, until we get the employee handbook updated and this issue corrected. Again, what's owed is owed. I'm not disagreeing with that, but I do want to see these systematic problems with our city fixed. I equate this to, it's totally different, but to MERS, unfunded liability, and it's just costs that we're carrying. We don't have any solution, so this one we can actually come up with something and a way to fix it. So let's make this a priority.
Mike, want to try that again?
Yeah, I'll make the motion that we postpone this agenda item to our next scheduled meeting, and I would like to see what options we have available for the purchase of vacation time at that meeting.
I'll second. Thank you.
Just a comment, I would really like to see the numbers that were distributed, have them be the accurate numbers. I don't want to see 3 amendments between the time we get our packet and the time that we're actually having a conversation.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
consider authorization for city manager to attend and present at the Michigan Municipal Executive Summer Workshop.
The MME is formerly known as the Michigan Local Government Managers Association, and the summer workshop is scheduled for the end of July in Muskegon. I have been asked to present with two other managers on professional ethics for managers, and there are also additional sessions that I think are important to South Lyon, including All-American Conversations, community engagement, how to prepare for a headache-free audit, community revitalization when the private sector fails, and talent and succession planning, and then a spotlight on OPEB. The cost for registration at the workshop is $169, which includes all meals on Wednesday and Thursday and breakfast on Friday. The lodging is a block rate with approximate taxes of $14.19 a night for a total of $429.57 for lodging. So the entire conference is just under $600
And this qualifies for your
for my
contract.
credentialing
Yep,
and my
your
professionals. Yes,
Professional service, or what do you call it? I'm sorry.
professional development.
Development that, okay. I'll make the motion to approve the city manager to attend the MME summer workshop, and hopefully it's very productive. Thank you.
Second.
I've got some questions. How many meetings do they conduct a month?
The MME.
Yeah.
The MME holds 2 workshops a year, one in the summer and one in usually late January, early February.
Okay, so how many functions are you attending during the course of regular business during a year?
I regularly drive to the MMRMA State Pool Committee, and then I attempt to do one professional development committee conference, either ICMA or an MME. I don't go to both of the MMEs, and if I go to an MME, I don't go to ICMA that year.
That includes meetings during the course of the year that are functional meetings, not these more regional or national kind of things?
Now, there are functional meetings on things like social media that takes me out of the office for a half a day that I attended not quite a year ago, put on by the MML. There are other different workshops from the MML. I
Do
try
you have a sense of how many? I mean, I'm trying to get an idea of how much you're out of the building to address all these. You're on MIRMA, you're on Michigan Municipal League, you're on ROSAC, so these are all things that are taking you away from conducting your obligations to being the city manager here. I'd like to have some kind of an idea of how much you're out of the building dealing with those functions.
Dealing with those functions, I would say less than 10 working days a year.
Okay.
And this is something, like I mentioned, is part of your contract where you have to, it's not like you're just going on a trip to Muskegon just to get out. I mean, it's part of what's in your contract for development.
Well, that actually has nothing to do with what my concern is. There's been an awful lot of balls dropped. There's been an awful lot of very loose ends taking place. This is no different than any other workplace, and there's a great deal of background noise conversations going on, and the level of unproductivity, it's displayed pretty frequently in the packets that we end up getting. They're not concise, they're not constructed in a nice, organized manner. Our budget was just a disaster. We need to do whatever we can to try to identify what can help all this stuff get organized. There's terrible communication between department heads and the city manager. There's a lot of problems with just regular conduct in City Hall, trying to get a real strong understanding of what what their roles are, what their role to you is, what your requirement or desire for product turnout from them is. And I think that we need to try to do what we can to help make these things less than a problem that they are now. So if this is contributing in any regard to that happening, then I just was trying to identify if this is in the best interest of the city, or if it's relatively benign to seeing work product going out of your office. So if it's 10 days and we can look for solutions in other regards, I'll roll with this.
Okay, we have a motion.
There was a second, too.
Second.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Consider authorization for the city manager to attend Michigan Municipal Risk Management Authority annual meeting.
Yeah, I made the other motion. I'll just say that, I think it's important, managing time and prioritizing, but, if you have requirements that you have to attend to, I have no issue. It does say that these are $275 a night plus taxes for lodging. That does seem kind of steep, but, I'm not going to nitpick it. It's something that you need to do per your contract, so I have no issues with this. So I'm going to make the motion to approve for the city manager to attend the MMRA annual meeting.
Second.
Try to come back with some big award for us. They throw out all those perks all the time. See if we can identify one.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, Bob. Downtown.
I supply the copy of the report. Any questions?
I have a couple.
Yes.
So, let's see, I want to say it is 4 bullets down. Continue preparation for a complete list of historic buildings.
Sure.
Can you speak to this? Is this only specifically commercial buildings, or are we talking residential as well, or are we just sticking to?
It would be all buildings within the DDA that might be considered historic under national guidelines.
Okay. And what are?
It was part of the preparation for the potential grant program, but I think it'll be an important part of the design guidelines to implement the community master plan. In fact, tomorrow we're having our 3rd design guideline meeting for the new master plan.
Great.
So it's part of that.
I'm not entirely well versed with the tax benefits, but are there any that might come with this? Having a
Yes, there
historic.
could be.
Okay.
If we were to pursue a national register, and that's something I'd like to get to in the fall and winter with Eastern Michigan University, explaining the difference between state, national, and what I would recommend against a local with restriction.
Okay.
So the national brings potential tax credits and other incentives.
Okay. I have one more question for you.
Yes.
So I saw construction workers working on the ramp for the Mediterranean restaurant. Do you have any kind of insight of what's going on with that? Is it finished? When do they have an anticipated opening date?
I don't have the details. I know that the building department was over there last week and felt they're close. They need the railings up before they can
Okay.
give final inspection.
Because there's a lot of excited people in South Lyon who want Mediterranean food.
Yes.
Thanks, Bob.
Okay, thanks.
John. Glad to see the sushi is open.
Yes.
That's good. I think one of the things, Bob, that I like is that I don't want you to just to be downtown, Bob. It's
Right.
It's got to be outside of downtown as well. So
Absolutely.
bringing in the sushi is a great addition. And in fact, those are the kind of businesses, and I'll have a question in a moment, but those are the kind of businesses I think really bring the value, such as, they all bring value coming in, but such as the sushi, and it doesn't have to be food, but it seems that's where the trend is and people eat. So Domino's, sushi, those are all places that did not have tenants for a long time. Whereas when we had the ribbon cutting, I noticed a lot of that business was replacement business, Craft Works, the yoga studio is upgrading. there were some other areas that recently have businesses then left and then were filled again. So I was just curious, out of those 17, how many have been replacement businesses within the past, let's say, 2 years of businesses? that
I
come-
have
Kathleen's, for example, was,
Yeah,
yeah.
I mentioned before, I do not know what happened before I came here.
Okay.
I could look into that, but I have no idea.
It's great that we're filling the Dust Bowl, but I look at the businesses that have come in. Kathleen's left, replaced by Venue, great place. Emily's Resurrection Hardware replaced the jewelry store. So it seems like, yes, we can celebrate all the great businesses coming in, and they're wonderful, but if they're just replacing ones that are leaving, we have a systematic problem there. So that's why I was asking maybe how many have been replaced. But I don't need to know. I was just
I think
curious.
that's a good, valid comment, but it's also, I think should be noted is that nothing against the other businesses that were here before, but it seems like the businesses that we're getting now seem to be a little higher and
Oh, yeah, Coral Sash and Venue and
operating
absolutely.
their businesses and how they're providing goods and services to the city.
Yep.
There'll always be disappointments, and I know that you'll soon hear what might be classified as a disappointment, but I'm going to take the high road and look at a new tenant. As I will work with any tenant because the zoning is what we have to deal with. And when we get a new tenant, as long as it meets the zoning and they do any planning or building requirements from the building department or the planning commission, there's nothing we can do about it. I will say I was disappointed that the discussions on the, I forget the address, where the kitchen store and the flooring store is now vacant. There were negotiations with a restaurant from Brighton for that space. The building owner chose to take an offer over the phone, and Patty Wax will be in that space
Hey, they're good
for a
people.
3-year lease. And I would hope that they will. I was courteous when I instituted the call to see how the negotiations were going with the restaurant. And I remained courteous, but I was a little dumbfounded because I said, are you aware of the space that they have? And they have less than 300 square feet. They're moving to almost 2,000 square feet, and probably their lease rate is going to quadruple. And she signed without having any personal discussion. One discussion over the phone, a 3-year lease.
Wow. Okay.
So those are the things that are very frustrating. I can't tell you how something like that throws me. But I did tell her that the code enforcement and planning, and we will expect a top-notch sign. We will expect quality window displays, and we will not accept the conditions that are at the current location. But my job is to work with everybody, and I hope that we can have them present that space as a quality space.
So what about the, and this is probably ongoing, but do you even have one business lined up for the same plaza as Salvation Army? Anything? I
We
want
have
to
a
see some.
potential, some of this is confidential. We have a potential major tenant that might move out of an office space and free up a space for a restaurant. It's confidential as to the
Yeah,
exact
certainly.
location. And that would go either to the Salvation Army Plaza or to the Bushes Plaza.
Okay.
And we're working on that. I can't do real estate, but I can have people call the realtor, and I can.
You don't have a broker's license?
I can marry. I can just put people in touch. And I have a great relationship with the two most prominent brokers, well, 3 in town. And I let them know, and I just give out phone numbers, and I say, contact your realtors to make the deal happen.
Okay, thank you.
I have a couple good things. I mean, the farmer's market, from what everybody is saying, is just getting better every week. And my walking through it, it seems much larger. It seems like more people are attending it. And then on the other side of that is the crosswalk is amazing, and people are actually stopping for people that are crossing there during the week, which I was one of them, but it was other people as well that I was surprised. Cars were stopping and going. They're starting to realize there's a crosswalk there. So I don't know whether we're safe or not doing it, or I don't know, but it's picking up. And the third one is the truck traffic signs.
I just talked to the Road Commission for Oakland County today. Trying to get a date for the Traffic Improvement Authority, Chief Collins, Traffic Improvement Authority, Chief Collins, myself, and the Road Commission to talk about a timetable. There was a communication problem between the Road Commission, or rather between Traffic Improvement Authority. They were sending their information to Ferndale, to another Chief Collins, who was not South Lyon's Chief Collins. And actually it was our Chief Collins that informed me of the communication problem.
What are the chances?
So that's why we need a meeting to get a timetable to get the signage up. And so we'll have that meeting scheduled soon, as soon as possible.
I just have a couple of the, first off, hopefully we'll be pleasantly surprised by the way that Patty Wax performs downtown. Maybe they'll transition into something that's beyond anything that we had imagined their existing facility would have provided. And the nature of the beast is some businesses make it, some don't. Some people have unrealistic expectations of either how much cash reserve they have or what their market will be. You know, there's a lot of moving parts in people being successful downtown. So the idea that that someone doesn't make it, it does provide an opportunity. It's sort of a, you know, it's a Darwinian, economically Darwinian kind of a thing. So I'm delighted by the fact that when we do have something open up, it hasn't taken an awful long time for someone to find a new home and make South Lyon downtown their successful home. I had seen crosswalk signs over at Whipple. Is that RCLC that's putting that stuff up?
I'm not aware of that.
Oh, yeah,
Okay. In fact, I was through there about 4 times today, but I didn't notice that.
Yeah, it's the crosswalk by Tenpenny and Providence over there.
Across North Lafayette?
Yes.
Okay.
That's correct, yeah. And, you know, they have more of, you know, how that, like carbon fiber material looks, you know, the woven kind of look. That's sort of the reflective surface of the thing. So I thought that was kind of nice. And just, Lloyd and Chris, I know that it's an endless problem for you guys, but it's really remarkable how many people don't see the no turn on red signs, no right turn on red signs downtown. Has anyone ever considered putting the sign on the far side of the intersection? Because typically when you're the first car there, you're already forward of the signs. I don't know, I know I've seen that in other locations, and I thought that seemed like, it certainly doesn't pretty the place up having more signs, but nonetheless, it'd be better than having somebody get run over, so.
I think it'll be interesting because the person, Chuck Keller, is the Road Commission for Oakland County in charge of signs. That's who the meeting will be with. And I think there are some questions. A quick question I have is, why does the Road Commission get to have a sign that says Road Commission of Oakland County in every 4 corners?
Mm-hmm.
But now's not the time to have a disagreement with
we
them.
might want to get
Now's the
something
time
done
to
first.
But I think just some simple questions while we get other problems solved.
Actually, another good question for that sign too is I noticed today that on the back side of that sign, it's like they took an old sign and put a sign on the other side. So when you're coming this way, you're reading something that's, I don't even know.
It's
a lot of
the,
times there are
seasonal
load limits for
it's
winter.
the seasonal weight limits.
Yeah, right.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Bob, I have one more for you.
On there, I thought.
They saved money for us by doing one sign.
What's the word with the hotel? Any updates?
They're stopped talking about July. They're talking August,
Figured.
later August now. They had a problem, 3-week delay of their plumbing contractor.
Okay. Thank you.
I stopped by
They're
there
hopeful.
today and walked through and got my feet all dirty and
It's coming along.
looked around and
Looking
talked
good.
to Corey. He was out there doing some things on his own, trying to break some of the real hard.
A real quick, interesting story, which kind of gets into the art world. But Superb Fabrications over on Reese Street, most of their work is automotive supply related with tools. And they have a byproduct. They stamp out of 4-foot by 10-foot steel panels. What is left has been turned into gates or artwork. But there is one design which they're looking at to create a railing and modify for the actual railings of the hotel. which is pretty incredible.
Oh,
It
yeah, that'd be
sounds-
very cool.
I mean, so that we would add an automotive angle here in Oakland County, an art angle, and a local supplier. So
That'd be awesome.
I think we could have a good story there, and it's likely to happen.
Just a little fun fact, you know what, that grid that's on the outside of furnace filters with all the holes in it, that's the drop from bottle caps. Isn't that funny?
Oh my, that's wild. Sustainability. So,
Thank you, Bob.
Thanks,
right,
Bob.
thank you.
Okay, Lynn?
All right. As was suggested in the budget process, it was suggested that we looked into moving possibly administrative and city hall staff to a 4-day work week to see if it could in fact save the city money. The suggestion was that it could save approximately $100,000 a year. I spoke to several different communities and townships that have actually made that transition since 2008 and later. And if the council would like, I can provide you copies of those emails. But the general consensus was that moving to a 4-day work week for City Hall and administrative employees has a minimal effect on cost savings. It does provide an opportunity to expand customer service to residents by opening earlier and closing later on the days that they are open. However, short of workforce reduction, the required transition only has a potential cost savings of very little, with possibly saving on sick time because employees would have a guaranteed day to take off and schedule for appointments. A 40-hour work week, whether it is 4 days or a 40-hour work week over 5 days, is still paid the same, and so there's no cost savings there. As we are in a shared building, the heating, cooling, electrical costs are still going to be relatively the same, with providing access 5 days a week versus 4 days a week. So I wanted to let the council know I did do research on that. We will be seeing a transition in City Hall in 2 weeks. Megan Blaha, our zoning administrator, informed us this morning that she's been offered full-time employment with one of the historic preservation groups in downtown Detroit, and she will be taking that position. We are sad to see her go, but I have already arranged a meeting with our planning consultant and the building official to see what we can do to cover the zoning administration with the potential of not having to hire another employee. Want to remind everybody that the Cultural Arts Commission has their Sustainable Art Show going on currently in the lobby gallery. Everything is available for viewing. It is also available for purchase, and there are some amazing pieces of artwork out there. They will be doing a couple of receptions. I don't have those dates in front of me.
23rd is one.
The 23rd is one. And so I would encourage everyone to come out for those, but if you're interested in purchasing the art, don't wait till the 23rd because pieces are already going quickly.
Well, they can't take them until the show's over, can they?
No, but they can purchase them.
Okay.
So, like I said, if you're interested in purchasing the art.
You want to empty the gallery.
The downtown's farmers market is, as John suggested, off to a strong start. Just a reminder to the residents that the hours did change this year. It is from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. instead of 9 to 3. But we've got some great vendors and great attendance, and I hope people continue to come out and shop at the market. Lastly, a reminder that this Friday we kick off our summer concert series in McCatty Park. We have a reggae-styled band called One Love Band that'll be performing at the gazebo from 7 to 8:30. Make sure you bring your lawn chairs, blankets, families, and friends, and enjoy the concert. And then next week, for a return engagement, the duo Gemini will be coming in. They're a family entertainment and singing duo, and I think they've been here every summer I've been here, so this will be their third summer that I know of. So they are very popular with the residents. And that is all I have this evening.
These are performance goals.
Excellent. Okay, council comments. We'll start with Harvey.
Good evening, thank you. I'm done.
Still want to start with you.
Trying to set a pattern.
I have a quick question for Chief Kennedy. Can you speak to the seamless tube fire?
Yeah, good question.
Can't, pretty much this time last week. The main blast furnace comes out. It's their breaker, is what they refer to it as. A very large hydraulic lift cylinder had a catastrophic failure, atomized hydraulic fluid, and as the bar comes out of the blast furnace, it's pretty much molten. Instantaneous combustion set the roof on fire, sent a couple of their exhaust vents on fire, several spot fires inside the building. We responded with a first alarm assignment, our department, automatic aid from Lyon and Green Oak. Fire was relatively contained. The problem with the tube mill is all of the hazardous stuff there. There's the best way I can put it is there's things that are normally on fire that are supposed to be on fire. So one of the challenges is knowing the stuff that's supposed to be on fire and the stuff that's not supposed to be on fire. I say that tongue in cheek, but that's the reality of that site. You go in there on a normal day and you would think something is wrong when it's working completely normal. So everything went real well. Great response from our department and mutual aid. Their loss, though, is about at $100K right now.
Wow, so extensive.
But it's just a lot of, between the structure and the machinery, but their downtime, we were able to get them back online within 90 minutes of the fire. Part of that site was back up. So.
Well, thank you for all of your efforts, as well as Green Oak, as well as Lyon Township. So thank you for that. And thanks for just the background information as well, because, I mean, you read the paper, you get the general update, but I wanted to hear it from you.
Yeah, the site did great. We've got a great relationship with them. We try to get out there once a year for a pre-plan. So everything went as well as it could have. So
Thank you. I also wanted to speak to Mr. Colville. Did I say that right? Yes. Colville. I just wanted to say, I think it's incredibly frustrating. I see your perspective and where you're coming from, and I'm sorry that we're not doing more to help you. When I went to coffee hour, I want to say it was 3 or 4 months back, that was one of the main concerns that the residents of Colonial Acres had mentioned. And that wasn't just one of them, it was multiple residents. And I hear you, I hear what you're saying, so I'm actually really disappointed that we're not doing more for you.
You guys are doing a wonderful job. I was just trying to use this venue with the cable, so the people, the residents at there can hear mostly what the police chief, what I've been told already. And because of turnover of people, you get new people in there and they're unaware, they have ideas, and they're trying to change things. And
Yeah.
so coming from you, coming from the police chief, I appreciate it all.
Thanks, and thanks for coming out and speaking.
I could speak on this real quick. I have pleaded with Colonial Acres not to add speed bumps. It is terrible on our rigs, and it is very painful for people in the back of the HVA transport ambulances when we take folks in and out. So we're in there daily, usually more. And so I know that there's a struggle, but I've had probably a dozen conversations with residents in there asking about more speed bumps, and I get it, but I've championed against, just because it not only delays traffic, it delays our response times. We simply cannot go over those at speed with our rigs. And for HVA, if you've got a critical patient in the back, you're pretty much at a stop, even if you're trying to go priority to an ambulance, to a hospital. So
Absolutely.
there's challenges, and again, I absolutely sympathize. So it's been a conversation. I know myself and Chief Combs have spent hours on this issue.
And that's the frustrating part, is I see both sides of it. My only concern is there are people who walk their dogs, and a lot of people aren't paying attention nowadays, texting and driving and speeding, and it only takes one accident to really make you turn your head and say, we should have done something. So, yeah.
I understand your position here, but I don't know how else to get people to slow down.
That's the predicament. That's the problem. But
One person gets hit, what do you do? Then EMC, they're in there, recovering that person because.
You need a bunch of those signs, drive like your kids live here.
But all in all, thank you, though, for coming out, because your voice is appreciated. And again, sorry about that. And lastly, I wanted to say congratulations to all of the graduates from South Lyon East and South Lyon High. Congratulations. You're going to go and do wonderful things and make changes in the world. So congrats. And thank you. Have a good night.
Just want to say thank you to this council. Every day when I drive down 9 Mile around 7:20 in the morning, I see that crossing guard out there. And I am so thankful that we authorized a crossing guard for Millennium and Centennial middle schools, just because the traffic on 9 Mile in the morning is horrendous. It's a 20-minute window, but it's a very intense 20-minute window, both in the morning and the afternoon. So again, I appreciate the council authorizing that crossing guard. Thanks.
Maggie?
Yeah, I have a couple comments, but I do have a question, 2 things. Lynn, I got probably about 5 phone calls from residents in my subdivision. And what is happening is when GFL comes and the people that do the recycling things, they're either not closing a door or something, but a lot of milk bottles and plastic bottles end up on 9 Mile, and they're ending up on the side that Hidden Creek is responsible for maintaining and cleaning. So I was just asked by homeowners to just see if maybe you could contact them and just make sure that when their trucks are coming down 9 Mile, that they have their doors closed so that material or whatever is not floating out on the road. And I have to, I'd like to thank those members of Hidden Creek that have been going out and personally picking up the garbage out there along 9 Mile. I want to thank those residents for doing their part. They're not asked to do it, they're just doing it as community service, so I'd like to thank them. Additionally, Chief, had a question from a different group of my neighbors. The crosswalk that is on 9 Mile, that is connecting the trail as it comes from around Hidden Creek and then across 9 Mile. And
Goes
then,
to Volunteer Park.
Yeah, it goes to Volunteer Park. There's a sign there, it says crosswalk. The question has arisen, is that a mandatory stop? Do you have to stop if you
No.
see? Okay, that's
You-
what, okay.
You don't have to stop just because there's a crosswalk. If there is someone physically in a crosswalk, it's state law
Yes.
that you have to stop.
But if a person is just on the sidewalk with a stroller, waiting to get into the crosswalk because they're watching traffic, does that traffic need to stop?
No.
Okay, that's then,
It would be nice, but no, they're not required
I
to stop.
generally stop, but I had questions.
And then,
I
and
didn't
then
know the answer.
that creates a dilemma too, because if one kind person stops in one direction and the person gets out there and the other direction doesn't stop, then we have a
I'll
crash.
tell you why I stopped, because a lot of times, if it's just adults, I think adults know that the traffic is going to go through that crosswalk and not stop. But if you have a parent that's there with a couple of little kids, that little kid is probably used to walking a crosswalk, and I don't want a kid running out in front of me, so I stop, particularly when but I just want to get that cleared up. Okay. For my council comments, then, additionally, I just want to remind everybody, Active Faith is having a golf outing on Monday, July 17th. It's going to be at Salem Hills Golf Course. This is a wonderful, wonderful golf outing. It is very well attended. If you can't go to the golfing part during the day, you can always buy a dinner ticket for $50. I do want to disclose that I did serve on this board of directors for many, many years at Active Faith, but it is probably one of the finest run organizations in the area. Financially astute, it is. They're out there getting their grants, and just a good board of directors overall. So please support Active Faith if you can. That'd be great. Also, we have the Sustainable Art Show that's in the Atrium Gallery, which is the lobby between the South Lyon Area School District and City Hall. And Lynn is absolutely correct. This is a great show. There are some incredible artists that are appearing this year. And I think this speaks to how the Cultural Arts Commission is developing. Their contacts are beginning to reach out, and the level of artists that they are beginning to get to come to some of their shows is really, really noteworthy. And I think this is a hard-working commission, and I'd like to commend all of them that are working on this show. And once again, they've got a great poster for it, and they've got another event coming up in July. So this is definitely a commission that I think is doing its community service and doing exactly what the community wants it to do. And hopefully there'll be money set aside down the line where they can start purchasing architecture pieces for the city and the surrounding areas. And next, what I would like to do is I would like to say Happy Father's Day to my dad, who gave me probably the most wonderful life growing up, along with my brothers and sisters. I'm very, very fortunate. I had a wonderful life growing up. A lot of laughter, but I had a lot of brothers and sisters. I can remember days of just sitting there with my dad on weekends and just laughing about everything in the world. He has a great sense of humor. He's still living, and I miss him dearly, and I think that's one of the things that we always regret in life, that maybe we didn't spend enough time with our parents, and this is one of those times where I wish I could be spending a little bit more time with my dad, particularly with somebody facing, he's at an elderly stage for sure. But Dad, if you're listening tonight, I just want to say thank you for giving me the best childhood any kid could ever want. One thing about my dad and my mom has passed, but my dad, he never gave us what we wanted. He gave us what we needed. He gave me a roof over my head. He gave me character and value, and he gave me good ethics. He gave me an education. I paid for it, but he told me I was going to get one. But just a really good, simple man with great values, wonderful common sense, and like I said, I had a childhood that many kids would die for. So happy Father's Day, and to all the men out there, happy Father's Day to all of you. So I'd like to thank everyone this evening for inviting me into your home. I'll see you at the next City Council meeting.
I was pleased to get the notice from Chief Collins regarding the Oakland County Prosecutor's Office closing the case file and denying the request for the warrant regarding the charge of my conflict of interest. It was really disappointing that my word hadn't been taken at that original reveal of this situation, and that it had gone to the levels that it had, the squandering of $38,000 plus. I just don't believe that anybody on council imagined that it would have ended up being anywhere near that costly. The Anhut Burr estimate had been between $5,000 and $10,000, which in my mind was still just ridiculous, but nonetheless it is what it is. I had nothing to do with the contracts. I had nothing to gain by the whole thing. Luckily that's been proven out. I just had one question I'd like to ask, and it was posed by Reagan's Labor Secretary Ray Donovan upon his acquittal. What office do I go to get my reputation back? It was really nice walking around this last weekend. There was so much activity throughout the whole city on pretty much any kind of passageway that would carry people running, riding bikes. Shops were loaded down. The Witch's Hat looked like it was getting an awful lot of work over there. Had breakfast over at Alexander's, and that place was hopping. The whole downtown had an awful lot of activity, and that's really terrific to see, and that's just going to continue growing. I'm hoping that the next car show has perfect weather, and we can start lighting up that whole area, get those people engaged so they know that's a reliable event on the fourth Wednesday. So with that, thank you.
Yes, I wanted to come back to Mr. Cole regarding the speeding in Colonial Acres. I know it's difficult with being private residents, but I am curious, Chief Collins, is there a possible solution, perhaps, if it's difficult, we can't patrol inside, can we, if there's speeders that are habitual speeders in the morning, can we have station outside of, off 11 Mile and off of Pontiac Trail, maybe catching the people as they're speeding out when they get into the public roads? I know you gotta be
We
at the right
can-
place at the right time, but maybe
We
we can
can
increase some.
certainly patrol 11 Mile and Pontiac Trail. And it's not that we don't patrol inside, particularly Heritage Drive. It's that the speed limit there is unenforceable. Now, if they're speeding on Pontiac Trail, speeding on 11 Mile, we're going to enforce that.
Okay.
We will also reinitiate the speed monitor inside on Heritage Boulevard.
Okay.
But as I said before, that will have limited effect. It will have some. And
I just think, I know there's people that, not know, but there's people, as he mentioned, that cut through there, and maybe that's one way to kind of deter people, is if they're caught at the end, if they're still speeding.
And then the time of the morning, in particular, we're talking about, is also the time that my personnel are committed to doing school checks.
I know.
So it's a matter of, do you want me to stop the school checks to put them on 11 Mile? Probably not.
No, that certainly was not insinuating that. So, okay, I just wanted to offer that maybe some patrol at sometime during the day. Also, wanted to speak about and say that the city in general, I think there's a lot of good that's been done. I mean, we talked about, you look back and there was a lot of empty businesses and there's businesses being filled. I think the city's also making a lot of progress as it comes in terms to our ordinances and just improving things in general. As I mentioned about the Open Meetings Act, we stopped having or limited our closed meetings, so that's being corrected. We're having more productive meetings. The downtown is now a standing agenda item, and that's getting some attention that we never used to have. Also, and that's why I'm glad to see that this budget is going to be a standing agenda item, because quite frankly, it was very difficult to go through this process and to look the taxpayers in the eyes now and say, look, we still have a shortfall in 18-19 with additional tax increases. I mean, we got to start sounding the alarm now. And one of the most disappointing things for me was, we kind of touched upon this, I'm not going to beat it up too much, but the Chicken Little letter that we received, basically saying that if we didn't do something, that there was going to be a complete and utter government shutdown. It was just a complete, exaggeration. And personally, I felt as if we were being bullied into, that's not funny to me, that's how I felt, was that we were being bullied into voting for a tax increase. So my message is that we are going to take this very seriously, this budget, and if there's a tax increase, we're going to look at it hard and make sure we're doing the due diligence and not going to rubber stamp things. So that's one of the areas we can improve upon, because there's a lot of people on fixed incomes. I spoke about Colonial Acres, and there's a lot of people, a lot of friends in Colonial Acres that I have that are on fixed incomes all over the city, not just Colonial Acres. So going forward, we need to be diligent about this budget, and hopefully this will stay as a standing item and we can get to work now, so we don't have to deal with this mess, same position 8-9 months from now, or even 10 months. We can deal with it immediately. On a more positive note, I did attend Blessings in a Backpack fundraiser a couple weeks ago at Tanglewood Golf Course. I attended the dinner. For those who don't know, Blessings in a Backpack, they feed underprivileged children, and it's excited to announce, it's not done yet, but they're seeking out the funding to expand to the middle schools next year. So they already service 7 elementary schools. They're going to be adding Pearson Elementary next year, and they're trying to get 2 middle schools on board, so bring them to a total of 10 schools, which is just amazing to feed all those children. I did have a chance to run into another very interesting person, positive, energetic. Ran into a candidate who's running for city council, Joyce Cloesy. She was there, and she spoke about how she was supportive of the event, and she was well received by the organization, and it was nice to see candidates out and about at these events. So look forward to seeing what she has to say and where that takes us. So with that, I'm not last, second to last, John is last, but I do want to thank everybody for listening to me tonight and wish everybody a nice evening and nice week. Thank you.
Well, the one thing about going last with this council is you guys cover mostly everything, so I never get much to say. I want to say something. Maggie made a good point about, wishing your father a happy Father's Day. I lost my mom a few years ago. Our dads were always the hard guy, they're the ones they're the enforcer. And after my passing of my mom, and my dad and me got a lot closer. So I want to tell everybody out there with Father's Day coming up, young and old, go give them a hug and tell them what you think about them, because they need to hear it. And I think that was a good statement to make, Maggie. And there's a lot of, Glenn touched on it, there's a lot of good stuff going on downtown and around the area. I mean, we live downtown, some of us, we see it more than most. And from all the years being here, the amount of foot traffic has increased. The stores have a lot of people going in and out of them. We have some great stores and some great businesses downtown that are really, really putting a serious effort into trying to make things work. They're upping their game. Some need to up it a little more, I think, but there's some that are doing a phenomenal job. You can't get it all at once, I guess. We've got Oakland County coming in eventually to get the trucks to not turn downtown, hopefully, which is going to make a big impact. I've always truly believed that it's a lot safer downtown than what people believe from the outside looking in. You can walk around pretty safe downtown, and it's relatively quiet most of the time, and I think that's just an excuse people make because they really don't know, and 3 of us live downtown, and we've been, 2 of us been there quite a while, and there's been a big significant change in the pattern and the culture and the habits of the people downtown, and you see more walking, more jogging. It's all good. So I'm hoping that just continues to go the way it is. We just had that magazine come out, and we got a free spread in there, so kind of about the city of South Lyon. I've heard nothing but great things from people talking about that article that was in there. I think it was good for the city to hear the positive that's really going on, and they wanted to come and do the interviews and talk to us, so I think that's the plus. It isn't like we seek them out. They actually wanted to come and talk, and so the word's getting out there. Other things that are going on that people don't know about, this is kind of unrelated, but it is. There's a I'm not going to mention there's a gym down the road that there's a lot of people that are going out and competing in events around the state, and they're winning and taking first, second, third podiums. And people in these cities like Rochester, and they've heard about us, they don't know who we are, but if you go and you watch the event and you hear people say, well, where are you guys at? And you go, South Lyon. You're in South Lyon? And our word is getting out there now, that we are in Oakland County, and we don't have to justify our means anymore. And I work in an office that do a lot of work for the auto industry. Lots of nice cars in that office. Most of those guys are from the east side. They're starting to talk about the car show that's been going on in South Lyon, and the word's getting out to them. So I'd expect some of them to start showing up. And those people are out, pretty far north, pretty far east. And so the word's getting out there. There's things that still need to be fixed, and a lot of good needs to still come, but we're getting there. So with that, I want to say thank you to everybody. Go home and enjoy another council meeting on your TV tonight.
Move we adjourn.
And motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Hi.